Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is Rias' father part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Naruto Uzumaki. Ring ring. Smash. A groan could be heard all around the small house as a boy around 16 and 17 opened his eyes slightly and looked at his newest alarm clock, wondering just how many more alarms he had to get before he begins to leave a dent in his table if everything continues like this. Last night he had stayed up late for the sake of work, so he had gone to sleep pretty late, and it didn't take a genius to tell he's not a morning person. Naruto Uzumaki sat up from his bed and grabbed the destroyed alarm clock before throwing it out of the window, unsurprisingly making the destroyed clock fall right into the open garbage bin in front of his house. The boy ran his hand through his unruly golden blonde hair. Azure blue eyes blinked rapidly to get used to the bright sunlight that's shining outside of his house. Well, happy 17th birthday. Naruto looked at the small calendar on the wall and saw it was October 10th, the day he was born years ago. To Naruto, his birthday was something he really enjoyed. That was the day when he let himself have a day off, no work, no part-time jobs, and definitely not some certain research involving naked woman, just him and his ramen while letting himself being lazy all day. Stretching his body, the blonde stood up and muttered the last part of his speech again and headed out of his bedroom. Naruto took a walk around the street he was living on to enjoy the fresh air of the morning after finishing his breakfast. Wherever he went, people seemed to recognize the blonde and greeted Naruto with a friendly smile or a happy wave, which the blonde happily returned. It was really strange, considered that he just moved here a few days ago, but just in that little time Naruto had helped them a lot by doing jobs for the people living around him, no matter how small they were. He nearly let out a chuckle when he remembered how different it was back then when he was still lived in his village, the place where he originally came from. Naruto scratched his whiskers cheek and smiled nervously to a group of high school girls that walked past him, giggling while saying how cute he looked with his whiskers, and not to mention his handsome features and athletic frame. Naruto had never been a guy that wanted attention, while most of his childhood had been seeking for that, but right now, he had learned that attention only caused trouble afterwards. As the years pass, he would eventually have to move, and these people, they would be just that. A group of people happened to walk past him. Naruto just moved to this town and saw that this place was indeed what he was looking for a long time now. He could live here for a few years, especially since the young girls at this town were quite attractive, which could help a lot for his legendary masterpiece, the main source of his income. Arriving at a bakery, Naruto pushed the door open and decided to buy himself a piece of cake for his birthday. Despite repeating again and again, year after year, it's not your birthday every day, and Naruto enjoyed each of his to the fullest. A piece of cake wouldn't hurt either. Naruto was looking at the delicious-looking cake on the case when he saw a small girl with short white hair that passed her shoulder, 2 long bangs at each side of her head and golden yellow eyes. She had a really cute face and a petty frame, wearing clothes similar to what the group of girls were wearing this morning, realizing it was some kind of school uniform. The white-haired girl was on her toes, trying her best to reach for the cake that had been put too high for someone who had a childlike body like her. Smiling, Naruto walked to the girl and took the cake easily with his height. "Here you go," Naruto said with his nice guy grin and held the cake out to the girl, surprise evident on her face, and when he got a clear view of her face, he realized she was indeed really cute. Scratch that, she must be the cutest girl he had ever seen for a while now. "Thank you," she said quietly with her emotionless tone. This girl really reminded him of those masked guys back home, especially one of his friends, who never smiled nor put any emotions in their tone. "Well, see you later then." Naruto waved to her and continued his searching for the cake, completely unaware that her golden eyes were on him. Kaneko Tuja continued to stare at the blonde for a few seconds before turning her heels and deciding to head to school. For a brief second she swore she had felt something coming from that blonde and it was quite familiar to her, but Kaneko couldn't place it. She had never seen him before. His appearance clearly showed that he was a foreigner, yet his voice had a clear Japanese accent. She would have to talk to her master later about him. Naruto paid for the cake before walking out of the store, not forgetting to flash a friendly smile to the shopkeeper, which made her blush furiously. The blonde, while walking back to his home, couldn't help but see more and more high school students coming from the opposite way of him, talking and laughing at each other, and all of them were wearing the same uniform for boys and girls, the same with the girl at the bakery. Curious, Naruto followed them to see what their school looks like. He missed that feeling after all. It had been years since his last school, and the blonde still remembered the feeling of a normal student at this age. While school life was completely boring and not the way he wanted it to be, Naruto really liked the strange taste schooling filled in his life and couldn't wait to start it again. Just a few moments later, Naruto stood in front of the school in the name of Ko Academy. The boy felt himself let out a small while looking at the size of this school and the elegant feeling from it. Whoever owned this place must be insanely rich, or just insane enough to build a school like this for normal high school students. This place looked like it was built for rich students, yet the students seemed pretty normal to him. But nonetheless, Naruto liked it and decided he might stop at this place if he got bored or something like that. And it's not like it's going to hurt trying a new school again, right? Naruto thought to himself and decided to head home, but a loud cheer of excitement caught his attention and Naruto stopped mid-step before looking back at the school. He saw the group of students had parted into two lines, creating a long line for 4 students walking to school. Naruto recognized the small white-haired girl from before walking with 3 other students, 1 boy and 2 girls. While they were far from his position, fuck the schoolyard, it's too big for any normal school, Naruto had no problem seeing their appearance. The boy looked like he was around his age with blonde hair, in a darker shade than him. Averagely built, wearing the school uniform for boys. His most noticeable feature was his handsome face, which reminded Naruto of his best friend but of course without the emo part. The boy was waving to the girls of the school, flashing them heart-melting smile, while the guys of just cursed out loudly and sent wave after wave of insults to him. Naruto let out a chuckle and shook his head. He understood what it felt like when a charming boy at their school steals all the young women's attention. The next one was a girl with long black hair that tied into a long ponytail by a large orange ribbon. Naruto unconsciously took out the special book he always carried with him and automatically wrote down the details when he saw her incredible, attractive body. Naruto was a little surprised he could find a schoolgirl with a figure that put models to shame here. But nonetheless he couldn't help but stare at her body. Don't get him wrong, Naruto wasn't a pervert, it just his job required him a sharp eyes for women, especially ones with seductive bodies like the black-hair girl. Plus, now he understood why his old Toad-sensei made the Ika Ika series. It was actually pure gold and always at the top 5 most selling series of the world since a long times ago. After selling the first books, which originally came from his old sensei, Naruto had decided to make his own Ika Ika series so he could always remember the man that guided him and helped him be the man he is now. It was really hard as first considering the fact that he wasn't a super pervert, but after Naruto decided to go research for once just like Jiraiya used to, his book's reputation skyrocketed and began to publish the new episode once in a while. Currently Naruto had enough money to live happily for another 1,000 years. Consider how successful his series is, but the blonde wasn't someone who could sit down and enjoy a simple life. Hell no. Let's see, Naruto muttered and wrote down his notebook rapidly without taking his eyes off her 5'6", a gentle and extremely beautiful face, 3 sizes 1026089, damn. G-cup? This girl is a real deal. Naruto chuckled to himself. Now all he had to do was create a personality that suited her appearance. Maybe change her here and there, but her look could help him make a lot of money. And who knows, maybe she would become popular too in one way or another. Naruto turned his gaze to the next person and nearly dropped his mouth to the ground in shock. Leading the group of students was a young woman who appears to be in her late teens with light skin, blue-green eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature is her long, crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single ahog hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. The young woman was wearing Academy girls' school uniform, which made her buxom figure stand out even more than before. The uniform consists of a white long-sleeved, button-down shirt with a black ribbon on her shirt collar worn under a black shoulder cape and a matching button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents, and brown dress shoes over white crew-length socks. All in all, she was a true beauty. Naruto had always had a thing for redheads. While this girl's hair color was crimson, he still felt some attraction toward her. Maybe it was something involving his dad's feelings for his mom. But what confused him the most was he had a feeling that he had seen her somewhere before. No, not her. He hazily remembered about a young woman with the same shade of hair, the same color eyes and a face that resembled a lot of hers, only much more mature and more attractive. Naruto felt his brain begin to hurt as he tried to remember, but he couldn't make out anything at all. Deep in thought, Naruto didn't realize that her beautiful eyes had turned to his direction and was looking directly at him. Their eyes met for a moment before Naruto quickly turned his head away, putting his notebook back to his pocket and returned home, walking at a normal pace, trying not to look like he was a stalker that was running away after being caught. Rias Gremory's eyes followed the mysterious young man with a frown on her face, wondering who was he. Naruto bit another mouthful of his croissant before taking his notebook and continued writing down his research for the next volume of the Ika Ika series. His azure eyes had been replaced by a pair of light purple ones, with the veins around his temples becoming more noticeable, looking at the couples who were making passionate love to each other. In most situations, Naruto would do the research himself, which meant spending some quality time with voluptuous women whom he could easily charm using his years of experience. But right now he wasn't in the mood and preferred using the old peeking methods to do the research. Naruto then stopped his writing and thought about the group of students he saw this morning. It was clear that they were not human. He didn't know what to call them, but they definitely didn't feel like humans. At first he thought they were some kind of alien species invading Earth, but he believed they weren't those ugly creatures with green skin that went to Earth and said, "Take me to your leader," and the aliens he had seen on TV couldn't hold a candle to the looks of the students from earlier, not if they had henge or something akin to that to change their appearance. Naruto then remembered the crimson-haired girl who had confused him the most after he saw her. Who was she? That question had been bugging him all day and yet he still had no idea, but the blonde felt like he had seen that face before, not the girl herself, but from somewhere else before. It was really frustrating as Naruto thought deeper and deeper about it. Her hair color was truly unique, and of course Naruto would remember that kind of hair color if he had seen it somewhere before. He was quite smart, but clearly he was no genius. His noisy friends weren't any help either. Now he wished he hadn't refused his pineapple-haired friend's offer to help him improve his intelligence from a long time ago. Swallowing the last piece of his croissant, Naruto looked at his notebook, which was already filled with so many ideas that pervy sage would pass out from a massive nosebleed. Naruto looked around and smiled slightly when he saw a helicopter heading his way. As much as he wanted to play a prank, this wasn't the time for that, and he really didn't want to freak anyone out. Deactivating his eyes, Naruto gently let himself fall from the top of the Eiffel Tower just before the light of the helicopter could catch him. The blonde closed his eyes as he enjoyed the gusts of wind that blew past his face. Just before becoming a splatter mark on the ground, Naruto snapped his eyes open and disappeared in a flash of yellow, leaving Paris silently. Rias Gremory frowned when she saw that mysterious boy walk past her school once again, seemingly in a hurry while carrying a small bag in his hand. The blonde had been on her mind lately, after seeing him looking at her with confusion in his eyes. Rias didn't know why, but she swore she had seen him somewhere before. With his whiskered cheeks and unique features, he would stand out a lot, and there were no way she could forget someone like that. Not only that, Kaneko had told her about the strange feeling coming from him when she met the blonde at the bakery. While Rias felt absolutely nothing from him, and knew that he was a normal human, she couldn't help but felt something off about the blonde. The way he carried himself seemed rather strange somehow, not to mention the way he observed his surroundings. He was truly an enigma. Rias turned to her black-haired queen and saw she was reading a familiar orange book while giggling perversely. She had to admit that the book was really good. While it was not her type of book, Rias could call herself a big fan of Ika series. Still, she hoped the current author of the series could come out of the shadows and let the world know who he or she was. Minato Namikaze, Jiraiya the Toad Sage, Kushina Uzumaki, and nearly 100 years ago it was Sasuke Uchiha. It was like each family generation would take over the series after 60 or 70 years. Maybe it was a family tradition. Getting back to her current business, Rias watched as Naruto Uzumaki began to wander around the school, taking out a small notebook and writing down something rapidly. Just as she began to wonder what he was writing, the infamous perverted trio of Koa Academy ran across the schoolyard screaming in fear as the girls of the Kendo Club chased after them in anger, bakens in their hands. Rias nearly let out a soft giggle when she saw Issei Hayadu, the boy she was keeping an eye on, being chased around, and still couldn't believe that he was the current best candidate for her peerage. Just then, she saw the blonde finish his writing and put the notebook back into his pocket and walked away. Rias sighed and decided to take a bath, wanting to clear her mind. Maybe the blonde was just that, a boy that happened to pass by Koa Academy. He was just that, a human with nothing special. But just before Rias could turn her head away, her eyes widened in shock when she saw the boy stop in his mid-step and turn back, bringing his hand up and waving happily to her direction. Rias nearly jumped from the surprise while looking around to search for any student that was waving back at him, but then realized she was the only one in his eyes' sight. He was grinning brightly, making Rias' eyes widen even more. It was impossible for him to see her from where he was, no matter how good his eyes were. Unconsciously, Rias brought her hand up and waved slightly to him with shock evident on her face. She saw his grin widen even more before mouthing some words to her. She wasn't the best at reading lips, but it was clear to her that he said Naruto Uzumaki before continuing to walk away. It was only later that day did she realize that he had given her his name. Bucho, something wrong? Akino looked up from her book and asked her master with her usual gentle smile. Nothing, Akino, nothing at all, Rias said slowly before standing straight up. Folding her arms under her large, Rias let out a smile before making a mental note of getting to know him. Turning around, she immediately headed to the student council's room to find any information she could about the new guy in town. Here's your ramen. Naruto grinned and put 3 bowls of ramen down on the table. Uzumaki-san, 2 more please. On it! Naruto shouted out and quickly returned to the stand and made another bowl of ramen. The blonde hummed a soft tune while making the food of gods, happy that his ramen stand was successful in this town, and he was even happier when he could introduce the food that the gods had given to humanity, to these mortals. While Naruto liked his job as an author, he preferred something that didn't involve peeking at women's bathhouses or couples' love-making. So after days of trying to find the best job that suited him and that he could do for a long time, Naruto had decided to open a ramen stand. Tuchi, his first sister figure, had taught him the way of making the best ramen and passed down the secret of Tuchi's ramen to him, which Naruto had learned to his heart. His ramen stand had hard times near its humble beginning because, much to his horrified and disappointment, ramen was always listed as an unhealthy food and most people didn't like to eat this kind of food. But after the first day, his stand had become really popular and Naruto could proudly say he was one of the best ramen stands in Japan. Hell, sometimes he earned enough money to open a whole restaurant, but the blonde preferred a small ramen stand that he could handle by himself. No matter how many years passed, Naruto never got bored of the taste, and sometime he even tried to improve the flavor of the Tuchi's godly ramen. Time flew, as his last customer paid for the meal and exited the stand. Naruto looked at the sky outside and saw it was nearly dark. Only the second day and he already made a lot of money, not that he really needed it anyway, but he found it really fun doing something like this. Naruto crouched down and began to gather his things so he could return home, but suddenly he heard light footsteps coming near his stand and then stopped right in front of him. Without looking up, the blonde said in a matter-of-fact tone, "Sorry, but we're closing." "Oh, I hope you still have some more left." A soft and melodic voice called out softly to him, making Naruto's eyes widened. As far as he knew, this voice belonged to a girl and definitely quite young, which was really strange because ramen wasn't something the girls liked to be their meal. Naruto peeked up from his stand and his eyes nearly bulged out of his socket when he saw the same crimson-haired girl that had always been in his mind lately, standing with her arms folded underneath her large, looking at him with a small smile on her beautiful face. "Well?" the girl asked with hope in her voice. As quick as lightning, Naruto turned his eyes to the pot and saw he still had enough to make another bowl. Unconsciously letting out a sigh of relief, Naruto stood up and grinned brightly. "Of course, please come in." Naruto grinned brightly as the crimson-haired young woman giggled softly into her hand. Rias sat down and put her things on the chair next to her and waited patiently for the blonde to make her order. Ramen definitely wasn't one of her favorite food before because she knew how unhealthy it was. But after finding out about this boy, Naruto Uzumaki, from her friend and rival Sona Citri, she was really surprised when she found nothing about him except for his name and current address. She couldn't find anything else about him, even his medical files, his education, and even his family's information. It looked like Naruto Uzumaki had just popped out of nowhere and began to wander around the town. When someone like this suddenly appeared, it would always involve certain supernatural beings, and it wasn't often that they came here in peace. But after a few days of Kiba keeping an eye on him, she found nothing suspicious, and even Rias could not sense the slightest special power coming from him. No sacred gear, no power, nothing, he was just an ordinary human. But that was why she wanted to get to know him even more than before. "So," Rias said while resting her elbows on the table, wanting to start a conversation with him to know more about the blonde, "You're new here?" "Yeah." Naruto smiled as he poured the ramen into a bowl. "I moved here around a week ago." Then he turned his azure eyes to her. "And what about you? What brings a lady like you to my humble ramen stand?" "Just wanted to try something new," Rias said, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. "You know, there's not a lot of ramen stands around here, and based on your previous customer's face, I think your ramen must be really good then." "Here you go, you should try for yourself," Naruto said before putting a steaming bowl of ramen down to the table in front of Rias. He was lucky that he hadn't put out the fire yet, and there were still enough materials to make one more bowl. Itadakimasu. Rias took a pair of chopsticks and spoon from Naruto before taking the first noodles from the bowl, slowly putting the food into her mouth. Rias could tell that the ramen was indeed really good. She had eaten ramen a few times before with her friends, but this ramen had a really unique taste to it. "Wow, it's really good," Rias said happily after swallowing the noodles, making Naruto grin. "Thanks, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, by the way. Of course you already know my name," Naruto said before sitting down on a chair behind the stand. "Rias Gremory, nice to meet you." Rias bowed her head a little before continuing to eat her meal. "Rias Gremory?" Naruto repeated her name. "What a strange name," Naruto said blankly, though he couldn't help but feel a little familiar with that surname. "Says the guy with fish cake for a name," Rias said with her own smirk, making Naruto turn his head back to her in a blink of an eye. "Hey, it's me, Maelstrom, damn it!" Naruto groaned and slammed his head down on the table. This was the reason why he really hated Japanese. They always mistook his name for the ramen topping while his name also meant maelstrom. He also cursed the pervy sage for telling a name like that to his father. Most of the time, people laugh at him because of the fact that his job as a ramen chef made his name fit perfectly. So Naruto-san, can you tell me why you have been wandering around Ko Academy lately? Rias asked, sounding as normal as she could. She didn't want him to feel suspicious about her. I'm thinking about joining Ko. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. Naruto had came to Ko Academy nearly every day after hearing about the infamous pervert trio of the school, who could always give him some really good research and material for his books. But recently, Naruto had thought about joining the school so he could find out more about these three guys. They could help him make tons of money with their perverse behavior. And it's not like he didn't want to try schooling again either. You know, after I gather enough money, I think I will give Ko a try. Why do you ask Remri-chan? He knew that she had been watching him lately. Whenever he went to the school, he always saw her at the top room of the old building of the school, with her blue-green eyes fixated on him. Speaking of which, Naruto didn't know what she was, but it was clear that she wasn't human, because a normal human couldn't have such a high amount of spiritual energy coming from them. It was really different, yet like his energy chakra at the same time, only darker and more powerful. If she had came from his era, she would be around high Chunin level and mid Jounin level shinobi. Naruto found it hard to believe that supernatural beings like him, one way or another, still exist these days. But times had helped Naruto realize nothing was impossible. Well, my father is one of the founders of Ko after all. Naruto nodded his head, unsurprised at the information. Of course, he had already saw that she was some super rich lady from the way she walked and the way she held herself and even her bag. Even her figure told that she was from a rich family. The two of them stayed silent for a moment before Rias started a new topic with him, already halfway done with her meal. So, you live alone, Naruto-san? Kind of. I lost my parents since I was a newborn baby. Naruto quickly added when he saw Rias open her mouth, don't worry about it, they're in the better place now. Anyway, after that I start living on the street when I was around 2 years old, and then I was adopted by the leader of my village. I got accepted to a school with the help of my Gigi, making friends, fighting with my friends, and then, after everything was said and done, I grew up, and started to travel a lot like my old sensei. Just wandering around the world, trying to find some place that I could belong to, and so, here I am. Rias listened to Naruto's short summary of his life and saw the tired look in his bright blue eyes. She never seen those tired eyes from someone as young as him, eyes showing that he had seen a lot of things, good and bad. And still came out alright after all that. She wondered what happened during his life that caused him to have a look like that. Anyway, Gremri-chan, what's your story? Naruto's eyes suddenly changed and the youthfulness appeared inside them again. What do you mean? She was completely caught off guard by his question and really didn't know what to say. You know, it's kind of hard to hide it when you are always looking out of that window with a faraway look. Naruto jumped on his stand, making Rias yelp out in surprise before landing lightly on the seat next to her without much of a problem. I don't want to push or anything, but it's kind of unfair when I told you mine while I just know your name. Rias let out a small sigh. This boy would never stop amazing her. For the next half hour, Rias began to tell Naruto about the story of her life while carefully leaving out the supernatural parts. She didn't know why she just told the boy she barely knew almost everything about her life like this. While Naruto didn't show anything obvious, something about him was telling her that he could help her with most of her problems. Just by talking to him, she felt like tons of weight had been lifted from her shoulder. For the next few days, Rias had become Naruto's most usual customer, and Stams just came to have a nice conversation with him. It didn't take long for Naruto to realize this girl wasn't a fan of ramen, and more importantly her life might be more difficult than he could ever imagine. He had given advice to other people before and they always found his advice very useful to them, but right now he doubted that his usual advice would be good for Rias' situation, but he still wanted to help her. Also, Naruto really enjoyed her company. He sometimes told her some of his stories from traveling around the lands and made some good jokes, something he hadn't done in a while now. And did he mention that by just letting Rias enter his ramen stand, she would draw a lot of attention towards them and make his stand's reputation skyrocket? Naruto sat down behind his stand and bit his pencil thinking about the new ideas for the next episode of Ika Ika. The deadline was coming near, but he hadn't gotten any new interesting ideas yet. Rias had been a distraction towards his other job lately, and he had been slacking off with Ika Ika. Speaking of the crimson-haired girl, he hasn't seen her come in yesterday or today and thought that maybe she was busy with something. Naruto closed the book and looked at the watch on his wrist and saw that it was time to go home. Maybe tonight he could go out and do some personal research with some attractive women. That thought alone made Naruto giggle perversely. Bad Naruto, stop yourself. Mentally slapping himself, Naruto gathered his things and pushed the stand toward his home. He had become quite like his teacher lately, and he was the last thing he wanted to become. Naruto continued to walk for another minute before a strong and pure feeling of a person's heart hit him. Naruto's eyes widened and turned his head to the side to locate the source of such purity, and was surprised when some sort of white cloth hit his face. Naruto pulled the white cloth off his face and saw a girl running towards him, holding a large suitcase in her arms with her legs shaking a little due to the weight of it. She was a girl around 15 to 16 years of age with long blonde hair and green eyes. Her hair flowed all the way down her back, with split bangs over her forehead and a single strand sticking out from the top, sloping backwards. Her attire consisted of a dark teal nun outfit with light blue accents, a brown satchel slung around her hip, and brown boots with black straps in an X-shaped pattern. She also wore a silver cross necklace around her neck. "My veil!" The girl cried out in Italian and stopped right in front of him, panting hard. "Here you go." Naruto smiled and said to her in perfect Italian. He gently took the veil and put it back on her head. It was really strange to him to see an Italian nun in Japan like this, and not only that, the girl was really cute and her face was very innocent as well. It had been a long time since he felt someone have a heart as pure as hers. "Next time watch out for the wind, okay?" "Thank you very much." She smiled innocently, making Naruto smile at the cuteness of her face, and then adjusted the veil on her head. The wind blew a little, making her dress flip up slightly. Naruto let out a small chuckle at the irony of the situation and his speech. "Yeah, definitely watch out for the wind." "So, are you a traveling?" Naruto asked the girl with a frown on his face. "No, I'd been appointed to the church in this city, but I got lost on my way." She scratched the back of her head while sticking out her tongue cutely. "You must be a resident of this town. It's a pleasure to meet you." She bowed her head to him and smiled softly. "I have been in trouble since I got here. I can't speak Japanese that well. I was lost and other people couldn't understand what I was saying." She held her hands together in front of her chest and looked really depressed. "I think I might know where the church is." Naruto folded his arms across his chest, trying to remember any churches that were located in town, but he couldn't think of any aside from the old, abandoned church he came across the first day he was here. There was something fishy here. "Why you do? Thank you? This is all thanks to God." She smiled at Naruto with tears flowing from her eyes. But then both blondes turned their head to the park next to them and frowned slightly when they saw a boy sitting on the ground, crying, while holding his bleeding knee. "Hey!" The nun went inside the park and went towards the boy, making Naruto's eyes follow her small figure with curiosity, as she slowly approached the hurt boy. "Are you okay? Boys shouldn't cry with a minor injury like this." She patted the boy's head gently. It was obvious that the small boy didn't understand what she was saying, but the sister had a very kind expression on her face that made him stop crying and look at her. The sister put her hand where the boy was injured, and then Naruto froze in shock at what he was seeing. If he was drinking water, then Naruto would have done a spit take when he saw a green orb of light appear on the sister's hand and placed on the boy's knee. In a blink of an eye, the wound slowly closed, leaving no scar or any trace indicating that a wound was ever there. There was no way the girl had a similar power to him, right? He knew that supernatural beings were still out here, especially after his meeting with Rias, who held some kind of strange power inside of her. While aware of their existence, Naruto had absolutely no interest in messing with them. He was just a wanderer who preferred a normal, peaceful life, and he knew that if he got involved in their business, he would only give himself a headache and trouble. But still, this girl just showed him something he had never seen before aside from his old teammate, and the woman he considered his Bachan, and even her assistant as well. No, Naruto thought to himself as he watched the girl smile gently to the now smiling boy, her power might even outmatch them. "I might need a drink tonight," Naruto thought as he massaged his temples. His sensei always said beautiful girls always bring trouble to you, and maybe he was right after all. The boy's mother was in shock. Naruto really couldn't blame her at all. Anyone who sees unimaginable things would have a similar reaction. "Here, your wounds are healed. The pain should be gone now." The sister patted the boy's head and looked at Naruto with the same innocent smile. "I'm sorry, but I had to." She laughed while sticking her tongue out. The boy's mother, who was shocked before, shook her head and then grabbed the boy's hand so they could leave quickly. "Thank you, Wani-chan." The boy smiled widely and waved happily to her. The nun just stood there in confusion, but nonetheless waved back at him. This kind of behavior between humans always made Naruto feel really good, and it was nice to see there was still someone with so much caring in them. He said, "Thank you, Wani-chan." She smiled happily after Naruto translated for her anyway, that power. Yes, it's the power to heal. It's a wonderful power that God gave me. She looked down and sounded a bit sad, even though the girl was smiling. Something definitely happened to this young nun, and he didn't like it. His instincts were screaming inside of his head about the situation. There was something definitely not right about this. But with a mental slap, Naruto pulled himself out of those thoughts. He probably shouldn't get too deep into it. The conversation between the two ended there, and they continued walking towards the church, with Naruto pushing his ramen stand with him. The nun followed closely behind him, with her luggage was being carried by Naruto. After a few minutes of walking, they reached the old church. Naruto looked at the windows and saw light inside the church, which meant that there were people inside. Naruto nodded his head rapidly at that. Might turn as paranoid as those geezers back home if he continued to think negative and felt suspicion about everything. Yes, this is the place. I'm so glad. The nun gave a sigh of relief after having compared their location with the map she had. Then I'll be on my way. Naruto smiled to her and slowly pushed his stand back home. He really needed to get home soon. Please wait. The nun called out to him, making Naruto stop in the mid-step. Turning his head and glancing back to her, he saw that she was twiddling her thumbs in nervousness. I would like to make you some tea as a gratitude for taking me here. No, don't worry about it. I'm glad that I could help you, there's no need for that, Naruto said to her before she could finish her sentence. But that she seemed a bit troubled. The nun probably wanted to make him some tea to show her gratitude, and as much as Naruto wanted to enjoy it with her, he had a schedule to follow, and Rias had been enough of a distraction to him already. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. What's your name? He asked kindly to her. My name is Asia Argento. Please call me Asia. She smiled brightly. Then, Sister Asia, let's meet again. Yes. Uzumaki-san, I will definitely come and see you. Asia bowed her head down. Naruto left the place after waving his hands towards her, and he could tell that she watched him until he was out of her sight. Naruto understood that she was a good girl, but it was clear that he wouldn't meet her anytime soon. The life he was living wasn't something he wanted an innocent girl to be involved in, no matter how special she was. Little did he know that his fateful meeting with her would be the start of an upcoming headache for the blonde immortal shinobi that would last for a long time. Naruto sighed deeply as he ran his finger around the lip of the glass of wine in his hand. Sitting with his head propped up by his arm at a table of one of the most expensive and popular bars located in Las Vegas. Naruto really wanted to get drunk, but he understood that no matter how hard he tried, the alcohol that passed through his mouth and down his throat and into his gut was just like a small glass of water he drank every day. He could savor the feeling of the wine, but couldn't get drunk. At times like this, Naruto wanted nothing more than to find some way to kill himself without hurting the friends he got in his gut. He had tried suicide before, but none of the methods he used really had any effect on his immortal body. Living so long without any connections, no friends, nor family, and even trying to distance himself from people around him, it was truly a miracle he hadn't gone insane and destroyed the world just for the fun it could bring to his boring life. Naruto sighed and asked the bartender to refill his glass. The blonde knew he was drawing a lot of attention from the opposite sex in the bar, but none of them had the courage to come and talk with him because of him exuding an aura that just screamed, I don't want to talk, so fuck off. I will take the same at him, please. A gentle and feminine voice snapped Naruto out of his thoughts. He turned his head to the newcomer who just sat down next to him and nearly dropped his jaw from shock. The woman had bright silver hair that flowed down her back like a waterfall. She didn't wear any makeup, but her face was breathtakingly beautiful. Her clothes looked like they were made from an extremely fine silk. She was wearing a black shirt with yellow trims at each side, which hugged her body perfectly while parting aside at the lower part, exposing her midriff, made her look extremely sexy yet elegant at the same time. Around her neck and shoulder was a long, light green scarf made from light material, which reached all the way down to her hips. She was wearing an extra short skirt, splitting at the left side of her thigh, showing delicious creamy skin and her mile-long legs with sliver-high heels that just tied the entire outfit together. Immediately Naruto knew this wasn't any ordinary woman. She was a high-class lady, and just the feeling of her aura was enough to tell him everything about her. A memory flashed through his mind as he looked at the woman sitting next to him, but left as quickly as it appeared, making Naruto wince in pain as his brain began to hurt. He stared at her in confusion. Her eyes slowly gazed his way and smiled seductively at Naruto. The blonde just gulped nervously before opening his mouth to start a conversation. Hello, he spoke out somewhat nonchalantly. What's a lovely lady such as yourself doing at a bar like this? I don't know, maybe I just want to find someone to talk to. What about you then? The woman asked softly and rested her chin on her hand, looking at him with half-lifted eyes. Well, you know the usual things about boring life and stuff. Naruto smiled, looking for some way to forget about all of them. Do you want to join me, miss? Lucifuge, Graphia Lucifuge. The silver-haired woman, Graphia, whispered seductively into his ear. Let's hear your stories. Shall we, Naruto Uzumaki-sama? He never questioned how she already knew his name. Here you go, everything's fixed. Oh, thank you, Naruto-kun. The woman smiled brightly, seeing her water pipe had been fixed. Don't worry, Oba-san, I'm happy that I can help you, Naruto said while shaking his head with a smile on his face before standing straight up and heading out. See you later then, Oba-san. And ran out of the house before the old lady could find some way to repay him, even though fixing the water pipe was everything he had done for her. Naruto slowed down and began walking down the street, enjoying the warm sunlight of a new day. His mind slowly went back to the silver-haired woman he met 2 days ago who later spent a hot and passionate night with him. Now thinking back to that day, Naruto swore he saw confusion and disbelief in her eyes when she looked at him, but she hid it rather skillfully, too skillfully for his liking, especially for a lady nowadays. It really didn't help that her beauty was completely unnatural. Naruto cursed his luck with women. Jiraiya used to say the same thing to him about his luck with them was as bad as his with money, and back then Naruto didn't believe him one bit. Not even a month and he already met 4 beautiful and lovely young women and a breathtaking beauty. But who was he to complain about that? After all, he merely finished the next volume of Ika Ika thanks to Graphia's kindness 2 nights ago. It was still hard to believe that there was someone could match his stamina. However, it was clear to him that she wasn't human. After meeting a hot, crimson-haired young woman and a blonde nun with healing powers, he couldn't find himself surprised at the situation anymore. But it was rather strange to say the least, considering that he never met some of them in his life until now. Their unique features would make him notice them, especially if they were drop-dead gorgeous like Rias or Graphia, and he doubted that that black-haired, busted girl wasn't like them as well. While at the same time, he could say that Asia was indeed human. Oi, out of the way! Deep in thought, Naruto just realized a boy with brunette hair and a lecherous face, who he recognized as Issei Haida from the perverted trio of Ko Academy, screamed out in terror as he drove his bike towards him at blinding speed. Naruto's mind whirled into action, trying to calculate which way to dodge the incoming bike that would most likely crash into him in just a few seconds. He had 2 options. The first was to jump into the air to avoid the boy, but he would have to jump really high to get out of the way, which would raise some unwanted questions. The second option was to stop the incoming bike with his strength, which looked impossible for a normal human, but it was nothing for Naruto. The second option seemed easy enough for him, and in this entire thought process ran through his mind in just a millisecond. Naruto then blinked when the boy was about to crash into him, and he chose the always present third option. Naruto took a step back, letting the perverted boy and his bike go past him harmlessly and crash into the wall behind them, with the boy flying right into the garbage bin. Ria's jaw nearly dropped to the ground in shock at what she just saw. She had expected Naruto to do some superhuman jump or stop the bike with his body or something like that, but he just stepped out of the way like it was the most obvious thing to do. Looking at the blonde who was checking on Issei, she really wondered if he was as special as what she gave him credit for. As she walked towards him, the conversation she had with her sibling 2 days ago returned to her mind. Flashback. Rias was walking towards the main office Lucifer Castle in deep thought. She had just reincarnated Issei Haida into a devil and used up all her pawn pieces to do so, which brought joy to her when she realized maybe she had gotten a strong servant, yet at the same time confused as to why he needed all of her pawns. She really needed some advice from her older sibling right now. Shana-sama, please return to your work immediately. Rias stopped right in front of the door that led to Lucifer's main office and froze at the voice of Graphia Lucifuge. No matter how many years had passed, she would never get used to the cold and chilling voice that always frightened Rias, especially if those words were directed to her. But fortunately, the victim of Graphia's silent wrath wasn't her this time. Now, Graphia-chan, can't you cut me some slack? I'm bored. Rias opened the door and stepped into the room, looking at the woman who was lying on the couch with nothing but her underwear. She had long, flowing crimson hair and bright blue-green eyes just like her. The most noticeable thing about this woman was her face, which looked just Rias but much more mature in some way. Everyone always mistook them as twins, but Rias always thought that this woman, who was her sister, was much more beautiful than her. And the fact that she was wearing nothing but a bra and a lacy thong not only made Rias become red from embarrassment, but also realized that her sister's amazing figure made her best friend Akino look modest in comparison. Shana Lucifer, formerly Shana Gremory, turned her eyes slightly to her sister, and then in a blink of an eye, Rias found herself being hugged tightly and her face being sandwiched between two massive mounds. Rias Tan! Shauna cried out in happiness, her sister complex going into overdrive at the sight of her beloved sister. I'm so glad you came to visit me. Get away from me, Wani-sama! Rias screamed out in anger as she tried to push her sister away from her but found it really hard because Shauna's grip was too strong. Her hands, while trying to find her sister's shoulders to push her away, accidentally grabbed a hand full of her sister's large, making the older woman moan. Ah, how daring of you, Rias Tan! Shauna said with a blushing face. If you want, we call her speech was cut short when she felt a hand silently landing on top of her head, and grabbing a fistful of her hair. Shauna gulped silently when she felt Graphia's cold, terrified aura flare out behind her, and she slowly turned her head to the silver-haired woman, who was looking at her with murderous eyes. Mercy? No. With a calm yet deadly tone, Graphia sealed her mistress' fate. A few spankings later. I'm so sorry for Shauna-sama's behavior, Rias-sama. Graphia bowed her head down and said with her usual monotone. Behind her, Shauna was lying on the couch with her ass high in the air, red from the spanking Graphia had just given her. You're so mean, Graphia-chan. With tears in her eyes, Shauna tried to sit up, but her ass cheeks were hurting like hell. Graphia never held back whenever she delivered punishment. Anyway, Wani-sama, I just reincarnated a boy as my newest servant. Rias snapped her fingers and a folder appeared out of thin air, landing on her sister's lap. His name is Issei Hayato, and he was killed by a fallen angel. It took me all 8 of my pawns to bring him back. Shauna nodded her head and looked at the folder in her hands. Except for the fact that he was killed by a fallen angels, he seemed pretty normal to her. But what troubled Shauna the most was why had the fallen angels targeted the boy in the first place? Either he had some kind of powerful ability, or a powerful sacred gear. She would need to have a word with Azazel after this for letting his people go running around his sister's territory. Okay, I will read it later for you, Rias Tan. Shauna suddenly stood up, making her jiggle, and walked to her desk, opened a folder and put the documents about Issei Hayato inside. Sighing, she took the robe from her chair and put it on. This was going to be a stressful night for her, not only because of the paperwork she needed to do but also because of a few incidents that occurred because of stray devil activity in the human world lately. And by the way, Wani-sama, before Rias left the room, her mind went back to a certain blonde-haired ramen chief that had become one of her friends recently. Do you know anyone by the name of Naruto Uzumaki? She knew it was stupid to ask questions since it was unlikely that her sister knew anyone by that name. But her eyes widened in shock from the reaction she was getting from Shauna and, surprisingly enough, Graphia. Shauna's eyes, which just a moment ago were mischievous and happy, became replaced with wide eyes of horror. Her perfect pair of lips opened and closed in shock as she looked like she wanted to say something. Then her knees began to shake before Shauna fell to her knees, much to Rias's shock, who immediately ran to her sister. Looking back at Graphia, she saw that the silver-haired maid wasn't faring any better than her sister. Wani-sama, Wani-sama! Rias called out for her sister and worried. Shauna then turned her head slowly to her sister and muttered. No, why, you're kidding me, right? Tell me you just heard that name from somewhere. Shauna said, nearly screaming at her sister. I met him, Wani-sama. He said he just moved into town a few days ago and wanted to join Ko Academy. Rias answered with her voice wavering a bit but nonetheless telling the truth to her sister. Never in a million years would she think her sister would be so different like this. Shauna's eyes widened and gulped nervously. And Naruto Uzumaki, did he have blonde hair and whiskered cheeks? She asked with a hopeful tone, tears slowly forming at the corners of her eyes. Yes, Wani-sama. Rias nodded her head and Shauna's eyes widened. Rias could see some hope slowly appearing in her sister's eyes. Rias, did he mention anything about me? In a blink of an eye, Shauna was on her knees, grabbing her sister's shoulder while nearly crying out, please tell me. And no, Wani-sama, he didn't. He seemed very normal and I couldn't sense any special power from him. He's human. Rias said nervously, making her sister's eyes widen, and then she slumped back to the ground. I knew it. Shauna muttered quietly to herself, and wiped the tears out of her eyes. He really is gone, she said as tears began to roll down her face. Wani-sama, Rias began, are you? Don't worry, Rias-tan, I'm fine. Shauna wiped the tears away and looked at her sister, letting out a soft smile and kissed the top of her little sister's head and stood up, but her legs were still shaking slightly. Now if you'll excuse me, I got a job to do or else Graphia-chan will get angry at me. Seeing no room for rebuttal, Rias stood up and bowed her head down and said farewell to her sister and left. Walking past Graphia, she saw the older woman trying to recompose herself as she looked at her mistress, her face rather pale. Rias closed the door to the room behind her, and saw that Graphia slowly made her way to the crimson-haired Mao. Pretending to walk away, Rias silently returned to the door and put her ear to the door, trying to catch anything from her sister and Graphia while trying to erase her presence as much as possible. "Shana-sama, please listen to me, maybe that was him," Rias heard Graphia say with a hopeful tone, a kind of tone that Rias never heard from the silver-haired maid before. "No, that person has been long gone now and we can't do anything about it," she heard her sister whisper to her maid. "He's just someone with the same name, that's all." "But I saw everything with my own eyes." "Shana-sama, he said he will. It was just a stupid promise." "But Naruto-sama." Slap. Ria's eyes widened when she heard the sound of a slap and of someone falling onto their backside from behind the door. She couldn't believe that her sister just slapped her best friend, with enough force that made the strongest queen fall on her ass. "Shut up," she heard her sister say in a cold and deadly tone. "Don't you dare say his name again, Graphia. Where were you when he fought for me and Millie Cass? Where were you when he tried to protect the underworld with his life while at the same time trying to take back Milika's? Where were you, huh? He's dead, you hear me? Naruto Uzumaki is dead." And then she heard her sister break down crying. Rias just stood outside of the door, listening to her sister sobbing and crying. End flashback. After that, she tried every way she knew to dig into this matter without letting anyone know what she was doing. Even going as far as asking her parents about Naruto Uzumaki, but made sure she didn't let them become suspicious. To say she got the same reaction from her parents was an understatement. It was clear that her family knew about Naruto, and he must be really close to them. She had tried to look into the history books of devils, anything she could get her hands on to find out who exactly was Naruto Uzumaki, but couldn't find anything at all. That was when she realized that all information about him had been wiped out of existence, and the only ones who had enough power to do something like that was her sister, Shana Lucifer, who was the Crimson Mao and the leader of Devil Faction. She didn't know why she did that, but remembering the pain-filled cries of her sister, Rias knew something had happened in the past. She had found an old newspaper from nearly 11 years ago and found out that the hospital her sister stayed at when she gave birth to Millie Cass had been attacked, and they were the only survivors that day. Rias shook her head rapidly to clear all the thoughts out of her mind because Naruto was nearing her. Looking right through her was something she knew Naruto was very good at. He can always tell if something was troubling her or not, and right now making her friend feel suspicious of her wasn't something she wanted to do. "Ohio Naruto-kun," Rias called out to the blonde who was trying to help a half-conscious boy to his feet. Looking at his bruised head, she felt rather bad for asking Issei doing something like that. "Issei? Ohio Gremri-chan." Naruto grinned brightly to her before casting his eyes to Issei, then to the crimson-haired buxom young woman. "You know the Gaki?" "Yeah, he is a member of my club." Rias nodded her head and looked at the boy worried. "I hope he's alright." "Well, in this condition he isn't waking up anytime soon," Naruto sighed. "Do you know where his house is?" "Of course, Naruto-kun. We better take him home before his parents get worried," she said and walked to the fallen bike. Issei was going to need this if he wanted to do devil jobs again. The duo began to walk to Issei's house with said boy on Naruto's shoulder, while Rias followed closely behind, walking Issei's bike. "So, Gremri-chan, how was your day?" Naruto asked the crimson-haired girl. "Oh, you know, just the usual stuff. My sister tried to annoy me again. She sent a massive doll that looked exactly like her so I could always remember her when I go to sleep." "Like really?" Rias asked with an annoyed tone, making Naruto laugh. Yep, her sister had returned to her normal self again like nothing had happened at all. "Wow, she must really love you to do something like that then?" Naruto asked with an amused tone. "In a way, maybe," Rias huffed. She wasn't a little girl anymore, and yet her sister still insisted on treating her like one. It was really annoying to say the least. "What about you, Naruto-kun? How was your day?" Rias turned her head to the blonde and asked him with curious eyes. "Nothing interesting, really." Naruto shook his head and a huge grin appeared on his face. "But guess what? I'm going to join Ko Academy next week. Cool, right?" "Really, Naruto-kun?" Rias smiled brightly as Naruto nodded his head rapidly. "I hope you will be sorted into the same class as I am. You're same age as me, right?" "Oh, I can't wait to introduce you to my friends." Naruto chuckled seeing Rias's happy face. She looked so beautiful like this. The two continued to talk with each other about random stuffs all the way to Issei's house and gave the boy to his parents. To say his parents were shocked when an extremely beautiful and attractive girl along with a handsome young man carried their pervert son to their home was an understatement. Naruto and Rias soon parted ways as the crimson-haired girl needed to meet up with her friends, but she didn't leave without promising to visit his ramen stand later. Feeling a little hungry, Naruto decided to head to the nearest food store that was in town to buy something to eat. His eyes then widened in surprise when he saw a familiar blonde-haired girl standing in front of the small restaurant's door, looking rather nervous and indecisive over whether she should enter or not. "Oh, Asia-chan!" Naruto called out to the girl and waved his arm widely to the younger blonde. "Uzumaki-san?" Asia said in surprise when Naruto stopped right in front of her with his hands in his jacket's pockets. Then her face broke out into a beautiful and innocent smile. "It's good to see you again, Uzumaki-san." She bowed her head down to him. "Me too, Asia-chan, and no need to bow," Naruto said cheerfully to the girl and turned his eyes slightly to the restaurant. "You want to come in?" No, Uzumaki-san," Asia said with a small blush on her face. "You don't have money, do you?" Naruto scratched his chin while looking at Asia's face, lowering his head down to her eyes level, making her blush deepen. "Don't worry, let's go in, the bill's on me." He patted her head softly before taking her, pulling her with him into the restaurant, not leaving any room for her to decline his offer. Naruto sat down with Asia at a table nearby the window and ordered an extra big burger for her, who seemed like she would need a lot of nutrition to survive and grow up. Not that he minded his friend having a cute, petite body like this. Asia took the burger nervously into her hands and looked at Naruto in wonder. The blonde nodded his head and smiled kindly to her, making Asia blush again. She brought the burger closer to her mouth, and she took a small bite. So good," she moaned and began to chew. "This is so delicious." Naruto chuckled at the girl's antics as she took another bite. "Just wait till I introduce you to the wonder that is ramen," he thought. "You sound like you haven't eaten burger before," Naruto said, raising an eyebrow as she stopped eating and looked at him. "Well, at my old church we only eat bread and soups," Asia said. "I sometimes eat pasta and vegetables too." "Really? What are they thinking anyway? Feeding a growing girl something like that?" Naruto muttered the last part. He had encountered a few priests and nuns before in his life while traveling in Italy, and they weren't always in his good book like Asia. The blonde took his food, which was pizza, and began to eat while looking out of the window. Both blondes didn't talk much after that as they silently enjoyed their foods while Asia was looking at Naruto with curiosity in her eyes. She didn't understand why he was so good to her, but the short amount of time they spent together allowed Asia to tell that he was indeed a good person and had a good heart. In fact, Naruto was the only one who had showed kindness to her since that happened. Finished with his pizza, the blonde looked at Asia to see she just finished with the burger too. He then ordered a drink for both of them, and Naruto looked at Asia, whose eyes were looking at the giant roller coaster in the distance. Smiling at the girl, he silently brought his hand in front of her face and snapped his fingers, knocking her out of her trance. "Yes? Uzumaki-san?" Asia turned her head to him but was met with a poke to her forehead. "Aui, what's that for?" she asked while holding her forehead, tears forming at the corner of her eyes. Naruto's poke was really strong. It felt like, if he wanted to, he could poke a hole through her forehead. "First, enough with that Uzumaki-san nonsense because it's making me sound like an old man. Please call me something different." Naruto mentally congratulated himself because oh how ironic his statement was. "Second, do you want to go that amusement park?" No, Yuzuaki." Asia winced when Naruto poked her forehead again and glared playfully at her. "Naruto and I-sama." But she was caught off guard when Naruto caught her wrist and pulled her up. "Let's go, Asia-chan. I guess you never went to one of those before, right?" Naruto asked with a grin. To say the least, he felt kind of good having a cute-looking girl like her calling him an I-sama. "Wait, Naruto and I-sama," Asia called out, but Naruto's grip on her wrist was too strong for her to break out from, but it didn't hurt at all. The blondes quickly ran out of the shop, leaving behind a good amount of money to the waitress without looking at the bill, and headed to the amusement park. Running while laughing, Naruto slowly made his way to the amusement parks with Asia right behind him, making sure he didn't run too fast so Asia could follow him. They arrived at their destination shortly after, and Naruto bought 2 tickets for both him and Asia and entered the park. Both blondes went to shop after shop in the park, played game after game, and Naruto had bought a lot of gifts for Asia. The nun had never had so much fun before in her life. While she had found happiness in using her power to cure others and help them as best as she could, it was nothing in comparison to her time with Naruto right now. "What is it, Naruto and I-sama?" Asia, holding a big stick of cotton candy in her hand, asked the blonde next to her when she saw him looking around. "I need to go to the toilet," Naruto said while scratching the back of his head, laughing nervously while Asia just looked at him. Telling the younger blonde that he'd be back, Naruto quickly drifted off to relieve himself. Asia relaxed into the bench near her and began to eat the cotton candy Naruto had bought her. She patiently waited for Naruto to return. A sad expression slowly made its way to her face as she remembered what happened a few days ago. Asia looked at the cotton candy and felt a little warmer inside of her chest. She always had everyone loved because she was the holy maiden, whose power could cure any wound and always held a strong and innocent heart. However, this was the first time anyone had given her any kindness without asking anything in return, even though they had just met for a few times and barely knew each other. Asia wondered how Naruto would react when he found out about her. Before she could go further into her thought, Asia realized she was looking at the brightest blue eyes she had ever seen in her life. "Hello, Asia-chan, are you in there?" Asia's cheeks suddenly turned a deep shade of red as she realized Naruto had returned and how close their faces were. "Nar Naruto and I-sama," Asia spluttered, trying to lean further back but she couldn't because her back was already pressed to the back of the bench. "You have been spacing out for a whole minute, Asia-chan. Sorry for making you wait for so long." Naruto chuckled while scratching the back of his head. "Anyways, let's get going, Asia-chan, there are still a lot of fun things left to do." Without waiting for Asia, he quickly grabbed her wrist and pulled her to the nearest game station while the blonde nun was smiling softly at Naruto. But she couldn't help but find something a little different with the older blonde after he returned. We played a lot today." Naruto sighed happily and sat down on a bench at the near park, smiling with Asia sitting next to him. Truth be told, it was really rare he could spend so much time having like this. It wasn't every day he had the company of a young, cute-looking girl like Asia. "Why yes, I'm a bit tired." Asia nodded her head tiredly, getting a laugh from Naruto. They had spent all day playing, eating and playing again. Of course, Naruto didn't have any problem with paying all the bills. Asia, after the third set of games, had started to understand that she couldn't argue with Naruto once he had made up his mind and decided to just go along with Naruto's plans. It's already evening and both blondes had decided to rest for a little before Naruto would escort her back to the church. Letting a small girl walk alone in a foreign town to her would be really dangerous and un-Naruto-like. It wasn't like he had anything to do for the rest day either. Naruto had fun seeing Asia's reaction when they went to the game centers and other shops. The girl had definitely never seen them in her life. He was also very glad that he could give her so much happiness. Naruto rarely dated any young woman like Asia during his times traveling around the world, but it looked like he hadn't lost his touch yet. Naruto looked at the young blonde and decided to break the silence between them. "I hope you had a good time, Asia-chan," Naruto said softly to her. "Yes, Naruto and I-sama, I had a great time thanks to you." She smiled beautifully at him before letting out a small sigh. Naruto turned his head to look at her with curiosity. With the amount of time he had spent with Asia, it was really strange to see a sad expression on her face. Then, to Naruto's shock, a single teardrop fell from her eyes and slowly, more tears started flowing from her eyes. She then put her hands to cover her face and started to cry. "Asia-chan, what's wrong?" Naruto began to panic as he tried to comfort her. "Did I do something? Please tell me, Asia-chan." Asia turned her teary eyes at him. And then Naruto and I-sama, and began to tell him a story about her, the story of a girl who was once called the Holy Maiden. In a certain region in Europe, there was a girl who was discarded by her parents. She was raised in a church nearby by a nun along with other orphans. The girl, who was a strong believer in the church, received a special power at the age of 8. She healed a wounded puppy, and a person from the Catholic Church witnessed it by chance. From there on, her life changed. The girl was taken to the main Catholic Church, and she was symbolized by many as the Holy Maiden because of her healing power. She used her power to heal many believers, and they were told it was a power of divine protection. Rumors brought rumors, and she was respected as a Holy Maiden. Even without her approval, she had no dissatisfaction for how she was treated. People from the church were kind, and she didn't hate healing people. She instead was happy that her power was of use. The girl was thankful for her power, which was bestowed to her by God. But she was a bit lonely. She didn't have any friends she could open up to. Everyone treated her nicely and was nice to her, but there were no one willing to become her friend. She understood why. She knew that they were looking at her power as something irregular. They didn't look at her as a human but as a creature that could heal humans. But one day it changed. By coincidence, there was a devil nearby and she healed it. Devil? Naruto's eyes snapped wide open, he didn't understand it. Asia just said to him that she had healed a devil, and if she healed one devil then there could more out there. There might be a whole world of supernatural beings that he didn't know about. And that was the part that made him wary. There were only 2 things he didn't know about, and it was clear that he had found out something to add into that list. Naruto then cleared his mind and continued to listen to her story. A wounded devil, the girl couldn't ignore it. She thought that even if it was a devil, she had to heal him. It was her kindness that made her take such an action. But that changed her life forever. One of the people from the church saw that incident and notified others of the church. The ministers of the church were shocked about it. A power that can heal devils. Something absurd like that cannot happen. The power of healing can only heal the followers of God. Yes, there were several people who had the power to heal. But the power to heal devils was out of the question. The people of the church thought it was common sense that the power of healing wouldn't work on fallen angels and devils. Apparently, a similar incident had happened in the past. The power to heal fallen angels and devils that was not protected by God but that was feared as the power of a witch. So the people saw her as a heretic. Damn witch that heals devils. The girl who was respected as a holy maiden was then feared as a witch and the Catholic Church abandoned her. She didn't have anywhere to go and the organization of stray exorcists picked her up. In other words, she had to get divine protection from the fallen angels. But the girl never forgot to pray to God. She also never forgot to thank God. Even so, the girl was abandoned. God didn't save her. What shocked her the most was that there was not even a single person in the church that was willing to defend her. There was no one who cared about her now. It's because I didn't pray enough. It's because I'm clumsy. I'm so stupid that I can't even eat a burger by myself, Asia said, wiping her tears while laughing. Naruto was trying his best not to snap, but he was barely controlling his anger by now. He wanted nothing more than to beat some sense into those people, or at least make them regret the day they abandoned Asia, who had done nothing more than doing what she thought was right. He didn't know what to say to her. He was always more of a man of action than a man of words. This is also a trial that the Lord gave me. Since I'm a clumsy nun, the Lord gave me this trial, so I have to endure it. She was laughing as if she was talking to herself. You don't have to say anything anymore, Naruto said slowly while gently putting his hands on her shoulder. I'm sure I will make lots of friends one day. I have a dream. I want to go buy flowers with a friend, buying books and talk. Her eyes were filled with tears now. Naruto couldn't look at her any longer. She must have been bottling this up the whole time. She has been waiting for God to save her the whole time and has been hiding her feelings all along. If God really existed out there, and there was a high chance of that, Naruto wanted to have a small talk with that geezer and didn't care how much power this so-called God had. Asia, listen to me. Naruto looked at Asia and gently wiped her tears from her face, smiling softly to her. I will become your friend. No, we are already friends. You don't have to be alone in this world. I understand that you now have the protection of these stray exorcists, but trust me, you don't want to get involved with them. He said that from his own experience. He had once comforted a few of them before during his travel, and those guys were the kind he would gladly shove his hand through their chest with his best friend's signature technique. You can come with me, Asia-chan. You can stay with me from now on at my home, and I will protect you from now on. You don't have to suffer this pain alone, no matter how strong you believe in God. If he won't answer you, then I will, Naruto said with a strong voice. Why? Asia asked. Why are you willingly going that far for me? We barely know each other. That doesn't matter. Asia, we spent the whole day together, right? We talked, right? We laughed together, right? Then you and I are friends, and I believe you can be my little sister now. We could be a family too. We will talk when we want to, we will play when we want. I will also buy a lot of books for you or flowers if that's what you want, okay? Naruto grinned. But Asia put her hand on her mouth, and once again started to shed tears. But this time, her tears were ones of joy. Nisama, I have no common sense. We could learn by going around the city. If you go around looking at different things, you would learn eventually. I can't speak Japanese. I also don't know about its culture. I will teach you. I will even make you speak using a proverb. Leave it to me. We could even go to museum to look at Japanese national treasures. Samurai, sushi, and geisha. I also don't know what to talk about with a friend. You had talked to me normally for a whole day. That was fine. We were already talking like friends. Naruto smiled, or siblings if you asked me. Will you become my friend? Yeah, so let's get along from now on, Asia see. But before he could finish that sentence, Asia suddenly swung her arms around his neck and hugged him tightly, burying her face into his chest, and kept saying the words, thank you, over and over again. Naruto just let out a small smile and wrapped his arms around her as well, trying his best to comfort her. What a heartwarming scene! A gentle and feminine voice snapped both of them out of their moment. Naruto turned his eyes to the source of the voice. His expression didn't change the slightest, but he had to admit he was rather surprised to see that the one in front of them was a girl, a young and very attractive young woman at that. Wearing a short black dress with a small, light purple jacket on top, she looked rather cute. Rainer-sama Asia turned her eyes to the young black-haired woman and said with a surprised tone, Well, I see that you have found a rather fine-looking man for yourself, Asia-chan. Rainer licked her lips seductively. And hello to you too, Rainer-san. Naruto nodded his head, his voice remaining calm. I take it that she is a friend of yours, Asia-chan? Asia nodded her head and quickly snuggled closer into his chest like she was trying to hide from the black-haired girl. Naruto shifted his eyes to Asia and then back at Rainer. And I take it that she doesn't like you? That girl, Asia, is our personal belonging. Can I have her back? Asia, don't you know it's futile to run away? Rainer asked sweetly. No. I don't want to go back. You're all a bunch of murderers. Also, you people did things to me, Asia said, finishing the last part with a hushed tone, and Naruto immediately knew that something must have happened in that church to make Asia sound scared like that. Please don't say that, Asia-chan. Your sacred gear is essential for our plan. So please come back with me? I also took the time to look for you. Don't cause me any more trouble than you already have. Reina said and began to take a few steps forward but stopped when she saw Naruto stand up from the bench and gently push Asia behind him. Sorry, lady, but Asia-chan doesn't want to come with you, Naruto said smirking, so can I ask you to leave peacefully? Shut it, human. Someone like you doesn't know anything should bow down and lick my feet every time you see me. Rainer snarled with her own smirk. Now Naruto could see that her face didn't look that cute, so I think I should give you the honor of seeing my true form. And then, to his surprise, Rainer's clothes began to change. In a flash of light, the cute-looking, high school girl that stood in front of him had grew taller, taking on a more mature appearance, and her eyes changed, taking on a darker, more sinister look. Her clothing also changed dramatically, now consisting of black, leather straps going over and under her, a thong-like piece held around her hips by 3 thin straps, gloves that run right up her arms with small lengths of chains hanging from them, shoulder guard-like objects on her shoulders with 3 large spikes sprouting from her right shoulder, and black, thigh-high heel boots. A pair of black wings shot out from her back, making Naruto's eyes widened. Behold, human, this is my true form. Rainer shouted dramatically with a deeper voice than before. I see that the look of surprise on your face is because of seeing a being more superior than you. No, Naruto said while having a blank look on his face while he sized her up. Are you into bondage or something? Rainer had the urge to facepalm. This human clearly didn't know anything about the supernatural world, and yet the first thing he asked her was if she was into bondage. Shut up. I find these clothes to be comfortable. Rainer cried out as light began to gather around her open palm before a spear-like object appeared in her hand. It had taken the color of dark pink and was radiating a large amount of power. Now, I hate to say this, but please die. As quick as lightning, Rainer threw the spear and aimed it directly at Naruto's heart. His eyes widened in surprise and only had enough time to push Asia, who cried out in shock, out of the way before jumping to avoid the spear. But before he could do anything, another light spear flew at him and impaled Naruto through his chest and pinned him to the tree behind them. The young nun looked at Naruto in shock when the spear impaled him. Tears slowly fell from her eyes once again as she realized what just happened. Naruto's eyes turned widened in shock. His blood began to boil as he looked towards the ground, hands clenching into fists so tightly that blood started to leak out. The light spear had stabbed him through his chest and through his heart, and it was making his body hurt like hell. Darkness slowly took over his vision as Naruto began to close his eyes. Now please, come here, Asia-chan, let's return. Asia wiped her eyes and walked closer to the fallen angel, Rainer, with shaky legs. Her only friend had just been killed, all because she became friends with him. Just because of her, her friend had to die. Tears streaming down her face, she begged God to do anything to save her blonde friend, even thought she knew it was too late now. Then, her eyes turned wide when she felt a hand pat her head gently. I will say it once again, a familiar voice rang out softly, making Asia's look up and she gasped in surprise, tears doesn't suit you, Asia-chan. Rainer felt her jaw drop to the ground in shock. Her eyes glanced rapidly from the dead blonde impaled to the tree to the one, who had just appeared in a flash of yellow, standing with his hand on Asia's head, grinning smugly. She didn't feel anything other than a small burst of strange energy coming from that yellow flash, but it was clear that the man in front of her was the same one as the dead man pinned to the tree. What's happening? Rainer couldn't conceal her shock anymore, as she pointed shakily to the perfect replica of the dead man. Are you his twin or something? How can you appear so suddenly like that? That, Rainer-chan, is a shadow clone. Naruto pointed to his clone behind him when it disappeared in a puff of smoke. And do you really think that I'm a normal human? A gentle yet deadly calm voice whispered into her left ear, making Rainer's eyes snap wide open. She didn't have any time to react as someone grabbed both of her wings and stomped their foot into her back, roughly pushing her to the ground while holding both of her wings. The fallen angels cried out in pain as her face hit the ground hard. Surprised? Rainer turned her head slightly to look behind her and found herself speechless due to seeing yet another replica of the man she thought she killed. How? She stuttered out. The Naruto that was protecting Asia walked closer to her with said nun following closely behind him, looking as confused as the fallen angel that just a moment ago was ready to take her away. You think I did not notice that someone had been following Asia-chan from the beginning? Naruto asked. All I have to do is give Asia some crazy excuse to fool you into thinking that I didn't notice you. Something like, I need to go to the toilet. Asia and Rainer's eyes both widened in shock as they remembered what Naruto had said when they were in the amusement park. While you kept your eyes on Asia-chan, and I'm grateful that you let her play with me for the whole day, I just need find someplace to create a couple of clones, then have one follow you and one to follow and play with Asia-chan, while I gave them direct orders from the shadows. He then turned his eyes to Asia. Don't worry, Asia-chan, they're direct copies of me, so we basically hang out together all day in one way or another. The young nun just nodded her head in understanding, just glad that Naruto was alright. Now, what should I do with you? Naruto asked while looking at the fallen angel, who gulped nervously seeing the evil grin on Naruto's face. Naruto sighed to himself when he closed the door behind him, leaving a tied-up Rainer on the floor of the room. If she was really into bondage that much, then why not play her game as well? Having just learnt about the whole world of supernatural things and the three factions was extremely stressful to him. He didn't understand why, after at least thousands and thousands of years of living, he didn't know anything about their existence. All three factions had a massive society within them. They had their own worlds, their own laws, and their own way of life. Yet he didn't know anything about them. Rainer had spilled everything after the first few threatening words had come out from him, which the blonde had learned directly from the snake mistress of Konoha herself. The real issue now was to take care of the rest of the fallen angels and stray exorcists at the abandoned church in this town. As long as they was still here, Asia's and the rest of the town's citizens' safety would be in danger. Furthermore, he was keeping Rainer as some kind of hostage. If they cared enough about their comrade, Naruto was certain they would come to save Rainer and take Asia by force soon. The blonde stopped to check the other spare room he had in his home, and opened the door just a little, peered inside, and saw Asia sleeping peacefully on the bed. He closed the door quietly and tried to walk away as quietly as possible. The young nun already had a very tiring day, and Naruto didn't want to wake her up. Because from now on, Asia would be living with him. This decision was a very difficult choice for Naruto. He understood that with his immortality, he would live forever. Asia would be just like anyone he cared about. She would die when her time comes, and he would be the one being hurt afterward. In just a few days, and he had grown very attached to Asia, seeing her as his little sister, someone he wanted to protect. 100 years is a very long time for a human, but for Naruto, it's just a single second during his forever life. But he had promised Asia that he would protect her and take her into his arms, and he wasn't someone who backed down from his promises. With that thought in mind, Naruto walked to his room and opened his wardrobe. After looking for a few seconds, the blonde pulled out a small orange scroll, something that he hadn't touched for a long time. He had something to do tonight, and he would make sure he did it properly. Ready, everyone? Rias turned back to look at her peerage, who nodded at her confidently, and readied themselves for their mission tonight. Issei returned to the club room with a pale face, saying that he had faced a stray exorcist that killed his client just because he had made a connection with her servant. Rias couldn't ignore these transgressions any longer. She had known about the group of fallen angels and stray exorcists making a base of operations at the abandoned church in her territory, but decided to not attack them or do anything because she believed that any reckless action could easily cause another war to break out between the factions. But after hearing that a stray exorcist had threatened and hurt one of her servants, she had reported it back to her Wenisama, and after a long conversation with Azazel, the leader of Grigori, and Michael, the head of heaven, she had the green light to deal with them any way she wanted to. Everyone teleported in front of the abandoned church, and immediately they noticed something was wrong. There was the smell of blood lingering in the air. Looking back at her queen with a puzzled look, Rias readied her power of destruction, and everyone else made themselves combat ready and slowly made their way into the church. and the scene in front of them made Issei vomit immediately. Bodies were laying everywhere, headless and limbless bodies of stray exorcists laying all around the church in the worst condition Rias or Aquino had ever seen in their lives. Blood had been spread everywhere, on the wall, the floor, and even the ceiling. Nothing was spared from the bloody scene. While Kiba helped Issei recover, Rias and the rest of her peerage began to spread out and find any survivors. They found none. Bucho, everyone. Aquino's quiet voice drew Rias's attention as she quickly walked to her best friend with Kaneko walking right beside her. Said white-haired girl's eyes didn't change the slightest, but Rias understood that Kaneko was as shocked as everyone else. Kiba soon appeared with Issei's arm over his shoulders, walking right beside her with her newest servant looking really pale. She couldn't blame the brunette, this scene would haunt him for the rest of his life after all. Aquino, what's wrong? Rias asked. Look. Aquino pointed to the wall in front of them. And Rias' eyes widened when at what she saw. Whoever did this, they had made sure to send a special message to those on heaven. Hanging from the wall in a cross-like fashion was the fallen angel that attacked Issei a few days ago. His wings ripped off his back, which were laying on the floor below him. His face was lifeless, but Rias could see a trace amounts of fear left on the man's face. The redhead focused her eyes on the things that were impaling his wrists, keeping him suspended in the air. They were two kunais. Gar, I hate my life. Naruto scowled as he stretched his shoulder. Who could have thought that fighting after such a long time could have a consequence like this? 2 days had passed since he had taken Asia under his wing. And 2 days since he slaughtered those stray exorcists. Naruto never enjoyed killing, not in a million years. But last night, he had found that those exorcists deserved the punishment that was waiting for them in hell, or wherever they had been sent to after he tore their body limb from limb, shoving his hand through their chests or beheaded them. It was truly a massacre. Naruto had showed those who dare stood in his way absolutely no mercy, even the fallen angel Donasek wasn't spared from his wrath. He didn't care what they had done to Asia or other innocent people, all he cared about now was that they had been put out of the picture and Asia would be safe, at least for now. He didn't spare anyone. Last night, except for that gentleman-looking fallen angel, he had met 2 other fallen angels with the names of Calawarner and Middlet, who were as bloodthirsty and as sadistic as the other fallen angels he had met so far. Even though he didn't feel like killing them, they had tried to throw those light spears at him in an attempt to take him out before he had shattered them with his bare hands. But before he could take their lives, someone had put their hand on his shoulder and stopped him. After that, he got the pleasure of meeting with the Governor-General of the Grigori, leader of fallen angels, Azazel, who was one of the most dangerous men he had ever met, and, in Shikamaru's words, the most troublesome man he had ever encountered in his life. Let's just say that he had a pleasant conversation with Azazel about what to do to the fallen angels that were still alive, who had happened to disobey his order and did things on their own accord. It would be better that he let Azazel deliver the punishments to those fallen angels. He never enjoyed killing, especially not beautiful and attractive women. Nisama, we have another order. A cheerful voice snapped Naruto out of his thoughts, making him turn to address the young girl in beside him. He smiled before saying, "On it, Asia-chan." Asia nodded her head with a cheerful smile and quickly drifted off to serve any customers that needed her. This morning when Naruto began his usual daily business with his ramen stand, Asia had asked him if she could help him with anything so that she could repay him for letting her live with him. Of course Naruto had refused at first, saying that she didn't need to do anything, but after witnessing the legendary puppy dog eyes from a cute girl like Asia he had to shut his mouth and let her follow him. Let's just say that she was now Uzumaki's ramen stand's first waitress, and his reputation had skyrocketed when his customers saw a young and beautiful blonde girl standing in front of his stand, wearing a cute-looking waitress uniform with the symbol of Uzumaki on her apron. Who would know that having Asia be his stand's waitress could be such a good idea? He had to admit, Asia was clumsy at first, but she was doing very well in serving the ramen to the customers, mostly the male ones. Her cheerful smile and brightness could brighten anyone's day. With Asia here, a new atmosphere had been brought to Uzumaki's ramen stand, and Naruto really liked it. Looking at her now, running around with a cheerful smile on her face, Asia had truly brought a new light into Naruto's life forever. He just wished that he could hire some more people to help Asia. He was afraid that she might be pushing herself far too much by doing all that work by herself. After all, his ramen stand wasn't a small one. Naruto-kun. Naruto's head snapped up as he heard the familiar voice belonging to Rias Gremory as she stepped into his ramen stand. But this time she wasn't come to his humble stand alone, she also had the company of that extremely attractive black-haired girl who, one way or another, brought him a huge amount of fortune after he published the newest episode of Ichi Aika Paradise, with the name of Gentle Maiden. It was truly a great hit. Unconsciously, Naruto pushed a copy of that episode deeper into his pocket. A girl as gentle looking at her wouldn't be pleased if she found out that he used her picture as the main female character of the series. Hello there, Rias-chan, and Akino Himejima. It's a pleasure finally meeting you in person, Uzumaki-san, Akino said with her head bowed slightly. No need to be so formal. Naruto chuckled and held out his hand, shaking Akino's hand before letting out a small smile. What's so funny? Rias asked, looking at Naruto's smile. Nothing, Rias-chan, nothing at all. Both girls raised an eyebrow as Naruto laughed softly. I just find that you have a very interesting friend here, Rias-chan, just as interesting as you. He smirked mysteriously. Rias and Akino gave each other a glance before turning back to Naruto. What could he possibly mean by that? There was no way he found out the truth about them, right? Anyway, welcome to Uzumaki's ramen stand. Naruto spread his arms wide while grinning brightly. So, what are you two's orders? I will take the usual, Rias said before she sat down at her usual table, right in front of Naruto. I'm not a big fan of ramen, Naruto's eyes sharpened immediately, but I'll have the same thing as Bucho. Naruto nodded his head and returned to the kitchen to prepare the order while his mind was wandered elsewhere. After becoming aware of the existence of supernatural beings, he still wondered why in the bloody hell he didn't know about them till now. Naruto had become more aware of them by now and could clearly tell that both Rias and Akino weren't human. Rias emitted a different energy than Akino, while the black-haired girl emitted out a mixed energy comprised of fallen angels and whatever Rias is. Damn this supernatural stuff, it was slowly making him more and more confused. So, what do you think? Rias asked her queen as both of them conversed as quietly as they could, completely ignoring the lustful stares from the male population all around them. Odd, Akino whispered back, just as Kaneko-chan had said, he's giving out really strange magical signature, but it disappeared before I could triangulate it. Rias nodded her head. I don't know how to say it, but Naruto isn't fully human. He's human, yes, but he's something else too, she trailed off. Excuse me. Before Rias could reply, a cheerful voice broke both of them out of their conversation, and they looked up and immediately jumped out of their seats at what they were seeing. What's wrong? Asia asked nervously, looking at the two cautioned older girls in front of her, slightly taken aback due to both looking ready to attack her. There was nothing wrong with this girl, other than the silver cross she was wearing. Rias immediately knew that this girl was from the church by the aura she was giving out, and she could feel a very powerful sacred gear inside of this girl as well. Asia gulped when she realized everyone was looking at them. Can I have your order, please? She asked again nervously. Huh? Rias spluttered out as she finally noticed the clothes the blonde girl was wearing. Don't worry, Asia-chan, give these to them, please, Naruto said cheerfully and handed Asia 2 bowls of ramen. He had saw all that happen and all that was enough for him to know what kind of supernatural being Rias and Akino were. Devils, they had reacted immediately when they saw the silver cross Asia was wearing. Okay, Nisama, Asia nodded her head and carefully brought the ramen down to the table. Please enjoy your ramen. She bowed her head down and quickly walked off to do another job. Sorry about that, Naruto-kun, Rias said sheepishly and sat back down to the table with Akino, who bowed her head down in apology. Don't worry about it. Naruto grinned. Still, I'd better be a little more cautious around these two. Apparently, they're not a fan of the church's followers, former or not. Naruto thought to himself as he kept a close eye on Rias and Akino, who were eating their ramen while eyeing Asia warily. The next morning. Naruto and I, Asia said nervously while playing with the hem of her school uniform skirt, do you think me going to this school is a good idea? Both blondes were walking on the street leading to Ko Academy, wearing the repressive school uniform for boys and girls. Naruto had decided that today would be the day he came to Ko Academy to give another go at school life, and he was bringing Asia with him. The former nun had been really nervous all this morning, but Naruto told her that this would be the best way for her to make friends, become more social, and get used to Japan's culture. Don't worry, Asia-chan, he gave her a thumb up, you have Oniai-chan here to protect you. Asia nodded her head, but didn't feel any less nervous in the slightest. She just hoped this school Naruto was talking about was as exciting as he claimed it to be. He had said this was the best place for her to make friends, but she really didn't know how to do that. Arriving at Ko Academy, Naruto and Asia made their way to the headmaster's office without being noticed by anyone. Because he didn't want to attract attention too soon, Naruto had used his skills as a well-trained, recently slacking off, shinobi to sneak into the school without being caught. Though Asia had asked him why they needed to do this, Naruto just laughed and waved his hand saying they better hold the surprise for later. After parting with Asia, who had been placed into the second-year classes while was Naruto placed into the third-year classes, Naruto soon followed the teacher that had been assigned to lead him to his classroom. The blonde had to admit that the school's facilities were truly impressive, practically state-of-the-art based on a few classrooms he happened to pass by. Studying in a school like this was truly amazing. Truly amazing if he was a bookworm or something like that, but Naruto had never been the academic type. "This is your classroom," the teacher said with a kind smile. "Please wait outside for a moment, Uzumaki-kun," she said as she opened the door to the classroom and stepped inside, no doubt to inform the teacher and the other students of a new student. Naruto took a deep breath when he heard the female teacher called for him from inside of the classroom, opened the door, and stepped inside. Naruto immediately heard the gasping sound of the girls. The blonde's lips curled up slightly, always these reactions. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, it's a pleasure to meet you all." He flashed everyone a charming smile before bowing his head down. "Please help me from now on." The blonde looked up slightly and saw a familiar young woman with flaming crimson hair looking at him with her mouth gaping in shock. Indeed, his time here would be very interesting. Immediately chaos broke out in this class. "Where are you from?" "A faraway land, but I can say that I'm part Japanese." "What's your favorite food and color?" "I like ramen and the orange color, and make sure to pay a visit to my ramen stand." "Do you have a girlfriend?" "No, I don't, but I'm very interested in finding one." That statement made the girls that were surrounding him squeal in delight, and the males groan in contempt. Naruto had to hold back a chuckle at seeing the heart-filled eyes of the young female students, and the heated glares from the males. This was always the kind of reactions he received from students whenever he arrived at any school. Well, there goes not attracting too much attention. This has to be my dad's Namake's charm at work. "Now if you'll excuse me," Naruto began to back out of the classroom, "I need to check on my little sister." He waved back at them, not forgetting to wink at Rias, who was kept a very close eye on her favorite ramen chief. "Little sister?" the girls whispered among themselves in confusion. Naruto ran through the corridors of Koa Academy, and soon arrived at Asia's classroom, not at all surprised when he saw her being in the same situation as him a few minutes ago. Asia looked extremely nervous because of all the attention she currently getting from everyone. However, the former nun was giving them her best smile which could brighten up anyone's day. Her eyes then landed on him, and she proceeded to smile brightly, and then wave at him. Naruto let out a small chuckle and waved his hand back at her. Suddenly his cell phone gone off. Curious, Naruto picked up his phone and saw an unfamiliar number. He gestured to Asia that he needed to take this call. Naruto quickly found some place quiet so he could have a private conversation with whoever this person was. "Uzumaki, Naruto here," Naruto said into the phone and then heard a somewhat familiar feminine laugh. Surprise, Naruto. You could hear the smile she had on her face from the tone of her voice. Graphia. His voice softened as he remembered the beautiful woman he met at that bar from Las Vegas, which later led to a hot, steamy night spent with each other. How did you get this number? He had thought she was just like any women he met in his life, just another fling. A little fun time together to relieve their stressful lives, and then the next morning they would be on their merry way. It has always been this way from the day his own madness subsided and he began traveling. If anything, he was not pleased at all when somehow Graphia had gotten her hands on his number. "My, you're so cold to little ol' me, Naruto." She giggled, and Naruto had to let out a small chuckle at that statement. He perfectly knew that Graphia was far old when things heated up between them. Yeah, what do you want, Graphia?" he asked. Fufufu, did you think that I wouldn't recognize myself in the newest volume of the porn novel Ika Ika Paradise series? His eyes widened. You've done an awfully good job at describing the Namake's Minato. His eyes widened once again when he heard his father's name coming from Graphia, which he had used as the current author's name for the series. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said with a calm voice. "If you're calling me just for this, then goodbye. Have a nice day." Wait. Naruto stopped his finger from pressing the close button when he heard the tone Graphia was using. He couldn't quite place it, but he could sense a hint of desperation in her voice. "I was hoping to have a chat with you." "I guess this is important then," Naruto thought before saying. "So, where do you want to meet?" "That night." Naruto walked into the bar where he and Grafia had met before and quickly spotted the silver-haired woman, looking as stunning as ever. It's hard to not recognize her immediately because Grafia was drawing a lot of attention from everyone within the bar. She was beautiful and attractive, which was only emphasized by what she was wearing. The expensive-looking dress left her back and the sides of her hips bare, showing off her creamy skin and amazing figure nicely. The dress also had a long slit at the left side, showing her mile-long legs. Grafia was waiting patiently for Naruto to arrive, looking at the menu in her hand, and from the looks of it she hadn't decided to order anything yet, not even a drink. Damn, Naruto thought to himself, as he made his way to her table. Grafia looked as stunning as he remembered, though he had to wonder why she wore such an expensive and impressive-looking dress like that in a situation like this, when they were just two people meeting each other for some small talk. Grafia looked up from the menu in her hands and let a warm smile form on her face as she saw the young man she was waiting for approaching her. "Good evening, Grafia. I hope I didn't make you wait long," Naruto said as he pulled a chair out and sat down, facing the woman who had called him here. "Hello, Naruto," Grafia said as she put the menu down and gestured to the bartender to come over, "and don't worry, you came right on time." Naruto nodded his head at her. He didn't feel like coming here at all. Leaving Asia at home alone wasn't a good idea at all, even though he had made multiple clones around the house to protect her. But at the same time he didn't have any problem being here, accompanied by a beautiful and attractive woman like Grafia. He might be thousands of years old, and sometimes he forgot to count how old he was, but the love for women and their attention was something Jiraiya had successfully passed down to him. "So, what do you want to talk about?" Naruto closed the menu and gave his order to the bartender. "I hope it doesn't have to do with me being the current author of Ika Ika Paradise," Naruto said, and didn't like his tone when he said the word current. Unfortunately for him, Grafia wasn't someone who would let something like that get past her, but she pretended to not notice it. "In a way, yes." Naruto raised an eyebrow at her. "But I mainly wanted to talk about him." Naruto held back an amused smile when he saw the woman in front of him look so troubled because of some simple words. "Well, you can start by telling me who exactly are you?" Naruto ignored the surprised look on her face and leaned his elbows on the table. "I already had some unpleasant encounters with people with black wings and a group of exorcists who called themselves stray exorcists, and had swords like those guys from Star Wars, Anna something and Obi-Watch's face," Naruto joked. Although, judging from the look on her face, Naruto could tell that Grafia already knew about what happened, and to make everything end like a fairy tale, "I got a beautiful, blonde Amuto at home and a silver-haired stalker. My life is already complicated enough, thank you very much." He finished right before the bartender put his and Grafia's order down on the table. "Itadakimatsu," Naruto said blankly and began to eat his meal, which was a pizza. A pretty strange meal to have in one of the biggest and most popular bar in Las Vegas. While Naruto was eating his dinner and turned his eyes towards the window, seeing the colorful and exciting entertainments available at Las Vegas, Grafia hadn't touched her order at all. She just stared blankly at the dish while her face held an unreadable expression, but he could spot sadness and confusion in them. He sighed. "You know, the dish isn't going to finish itself." Naruto broke the silence between them as he took a third slice of pizza and ate half in one bite. "You can start by telling me, what are you? Angel, fallen angel, or something else?" Asia had told him everything she knew about the factions. However, her knowledge about them was very limited due to her position as a holy maiden, who the church had thought needed to be as holy as possible. Meaning that she didn't need to know any information other than who she could and couldn't heal. Grafia took a deep breath before saying, "I'm a devil, a pure-blooded devil," Grafia said. "My full name is Grafia Lucifuge and I am Mistress Lucifer's personal maid as well as her queen." "Go on." Naruto nodded, feeling familiarity towards the name Lucifer, but said feeling disappeared as soon as it surfaced in his mind. "My mistress's full name is Shana Lucifer." As soon as Naruto heard Shana, a skull-splitting pain strikes, causing Naruto to wince in discomfort and massage his forehead. "Naruto!" Grafia yells with panic entering her voice after witnessing Naruto's reaction to her mistress's name. Back with Naruto, he was having a hard time trying to control his headache. He didn't know why he had this feeling, but Naruto thought he knew that name from somewhere, but all he could recall about her in his mind was nothingness. He couldn't remember anything about her. That's if he really knew who this Shana was. "Sorry, a little headache. Please continue, Grafia," Naruto said with a smile after regaining his composure. The silver-haired maid looked at him with wary eyes before saying, "As I said, Naruto, Shana Lucifer is my mistress and one of the 4 leaders of the devil faction, with the title of Lucifer. She's formerly known as Shana Gremory." This information made Naruto's eyes widen in surprise. If this Shauna's last name used to be Gremory, then that meant Rias Gremory is her sister, isn't she? Naruto guessed. Rias could be the daughter or someone related to Shauna, but for some reason, he had chosen sister as the possible relationship between them. Yes, Naruto, Rias-sama is Shauna-sama's younger sister. She is the current heir to one of the most powerful devil households of the devil faction, the Gremory household. Naruto nodded his head at this. He should have known better. There was no way Rias could be entirely human. Not to mention the way she walked and talked was slightly reminded him about the rich girls and princesses he had met during his travel, though he'll admit that she was a little tomboyish and more easygoing than most of the princesses he's met. Can't say I'm not surprised when I just found out that my favorite customer is a devil princess. Naruto said so. I guess I, one way or another, had accidentally gotten involved with these supernatural worlds. Goodbye peace and hello trouble. As much as I hate to say it, you and Asia Argento are not safe anymore, Naruto-sama. Grafia said, making Naruto a little surprised at being addressed by such honorable suffix. Asia Argento is a very special girl with a much more special sacred gear. Her power is very unique and quite useful, but Naruto had cut her off. Just so you know, I can protect myself and Asia. Naruto leaned back in his chair. I don't care who comes for us or what they might throw at us. I will take all of that and counter back 100-fold. Grafia shivered at the tone he was using. She clearly knew that he meant every word he said and had enough power to do back up his words. So tell your people, do not come for me or Asia. Save this Lucifer some headache and save me from one more enemy. He stood up and reached into his pocket, pulling out a small piece of paper he had prepared beforehand and gave it to the silver-haired woman. We better keep in touch from now on, so use this number to call me, safer this way. Call me if something happens or you have anything to tell me. The world could change, the people could change, but the ways to survive could never change. Information would always remain the greatest tool for survival. Grafia would be a great ally for him from now on because with her help and the information she could give him, the oblivious feeling he always had when it came to supernatural things would disappear eventually. I will, Naruto-sama. Grafia gently took the piece of paper, keeping her eyes on the blonde's frame till he disappeared from her view. I will. Thank you, please come again next time. Asia lowered her head down and said gratefully with a warm smile. The group of High School boys waved goodbye at her with a blush on their face. We should head home soon, Asia. Naruto looked at the clock. Rias-chan is coming at 7 o'clock to help you study, so we should be there when she comes. Yes, Oniai-chan. Asia nodded her head and began to help Naruto gather their things. The life she was living with him was very different than her previous life, and to say Asia loved every minute with Naruto was an understatement. She loved to spend time with Naruto, who had saved her and changed her life. The two blondes headed towards their home with Naruto pushing the ramen stand. Business had boomed recently thanks to Asia's help and both of them joining Ko Academy. Their everyday customers were now mainly high school students, both males and females, as they all wanted to see their respective idols. Speaking of which, Rias was coming to their house to help Asia with her language problems and other schoolwork she was unfamiliar with. The young former nun was a hard-working student, but she had a lot of trouble with kanji and Japanese, so Rias had offered her help. Naruto had wanted to help, but teacher was never his favorite job, not that he denied it anyway. When they were coming near the house, Naruto caught sight of the familiar and unique color of Rias' hair. The crimson-haired girl was standing with her back leaning against the gate, looking as stunning as ever. Of course she is, Naruto thought to himself, she is a devil after all. Rias turned her head towards the coming noise and saw the familiar ramen stand along with her favorite blonde and his adopted sister. A smile formed on her face as Naruto waved his hand at her. You're pretty early, Rias. Naruto smiled at her as he opened the gate. Good evening, Rias-senpai. Asia bowed her head down to the older girl in front of her. Good evening to you too, Asia-chan. Asia beamed at her. Come in, Naruto said from the house as he finished putting the stand into his yard, and please make yourself at home, Rias-chan. He grinned at the heiress of the Gremory household. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Rias giggled and came into his house with Asia following close behind. Rias's tutoring started as soon as Asia finished her bath. While both girls were studying, Naruto lied on his back on the couch and closed his eyes, decided to have a little nap after the tiring day. His mind wandered back to the old days, the days when there was still an elemental nations, Konoha, and ninja. Who could have thought he missed those days so much, where he didn't have a care in the world other than the duty as Hokage. A hard work day followed by a return home at noon and some quality time with his family. A smile formed on his face as he remembered Bolt's pranks and all the times he needed to step in to stop him. The pranks and jokes had lessened as Bolt grew up and he had Himayori there to help control him, but every day living with them was an adventure, a great adventure. Naruto then remembered about Hinata, his wife, the woman who had loved him and secretly supported him since she was young. He always wondered, even after a few thousand years, why he was so oblivious to her feelings back then. He missed her dearly. Her gentle smile, the way she blushed whenever he was near her, the passionate feelings she held for him, her beautiful face with blue-green eyes. Wait, Hinata's eyes was pale purple. Another woman appeared in Naruto's mind. She was standing with her back to him, long and beautiful crimson hair flowing down her back like an eternal waterfall. She was wearing a white dress that hugged her body nicely and showed off her amazing figure. Naruto's heart stopped when she turned her head back to him and offering him her hand. Her long bangs shadowed her face, but he could see the beautiful smile on her pink lips, which slowly began to mouth words. He strained his ears to hear them. Naruto-kun, Naruto-kun. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and blinked rapidly to clear his vision. You're Rias-chan? Naruto asked, though his voice sounded very surprised. Rias was kneeling near the couch with a worried expression. You're sweating bullets, she informed him, and I heard you mumbling in your sleep. Are you okay? She asked with concern. Huh. Yeah, I'm fine. He sat up and saw that Rias was telling the truth. He was soaking wet because of his sweat. Don't worry about it, how's Asia? He decided to change the topic. She is doing great, Rias said with a small smile. I think at the end of the week she will be able to read Japanese fluently, though speaking fluently may take a little while longer. Before Naruto could open his mouth, Rias had quickly continued, Asia is sleeping now, I put her to bed after we finished. Thank you, Rias-chan. He grinned at her and stood up. Say, you hungry? I'm about to make some ramen. Ramen? Just what do you normally eat? Rias stood up and glared playfully at him. Ramen? Rias sighed at his answer. Show me the kitchen, she demanded while rolling her sleeves up. I will cook some dinner for you and Asia. Before Naruto could protest, Rias had gone to find the kitchen. Scratching the back of his head, he slowly followed the crimson-haired girl, though his mind was wandering back to the girl in his dream. The girl who held a strong resemblance to Rias Gremory, but the feeling wasn't quite like her. Naruto sat down at the dining table and watched Rias skillfully dance around the kitchen. It was lucky that he had bought some ingredients the previous day just in case Asia wanted to try something different. Because as much as he wanted to eat ramen forever, he still understood that it wasn't a very healthy food, especially for a young, growing girl like Asia. While cooking, Rias began to hum a soft tune, which sounded very familiar to Naruto, but he couldn't recall hearing it anywhere. Nonetheless, Rias' voice was very good, and the tune made him felt at peace. Here you go, Rias announced and began to put the dishes on the table. She then sat down on the chair next to Naruto and waited for him. Naruto took his chopstick, saying itadakimasu like always before taking the first bite. With only a limited amount of ingredients, Rias could only make 4 dishes, but Naruto could tell that these were delicious just by the smell. It's really good, Naruto said between chews. Wow, your cooking is really good, Rias-chan. Fufu, thank you, Rias giggled with a small blush. I practice every day to improve my skills. Keep it up, you will make an excellent wife someday. He then continued to eat the dinner without realizing that Rias was blushing furiously next to him. You should eat some too, Rias, he suddenly said to her. The two ate in a comfortably silent atmosphere as neither of them wanted to talk during dinner, just quietly enjoying the delicious cooking of Rias. However, Naruto soon decided that he should get to know the young woman next to him, something beyond the information Grafia had told him, of course. So Rias-chan, care to tell me more about yourself, like your family? Rias looked at him in surprise before looking at the bowl in her hand. Well, you can say that I love my family dearly. Rias smiled, though her smile was a little sad. Did something happen? You don't need to tell me if you don't want to. No, it's okay. She shook her head before taking a deep breath. My family had engaged me to somebody that I don't even love, my own family. Naruto is shell-shocked. Arranged marriage? I thought that was too old of a tradition to still be relevant, he asked. Now he understood why her emotions were always fluctuating even though she tried to act normal outside. It's an effort to join two families together, to create a strong bloodline. Rias's hands formed into fists. At least that was what the other family said, and my family wanted me to be happy. But no matter how much I talk to them, they don't change their mind. Even my sister. Rias muttered the last part. I guess if I wasn't a daughter of a rich and powerful family, I can at least find my love and then live a happy life. I want someone to look at me as Rias, not Rias Gremory, the daughter of the Gremory household. That's why I live far from my family and stay here in Japan, where at least people will look at me as a young girl. Tears formed at the corner of her eyes as she remembered all of the heated fights she had with her family about the engagement, yet she couldn't bring herself to hate them. Suddenly, Naruto put his hand underneath her chair and pulled it, along with Rias, towards him. The crimson-haired girl didn't have time to gasp in surprise as Naruto put his arm around her shoulders and brought her head against his chest. Rias then felt a familiar feeling blooming in her heart. She felt warm, comforted, and safe. It was strange because this was the first time he had done this to her, yet it felt like he had done this more than 100 times. It's just like the feeling she always missed after that accident 10 years ago, yet she didn't recall anything. You just need to be yourself, Rias-chan. He didn't know why he did this, he was just following his instincts. Sadness isn't a feeling that suits you. I don't think I can help you, he would if he knew how, but if this helps, I've always liked you, Rias-chan. Not because you're Rias Gremory, the girl who comes from a super rich family, but because you're Rias Gremory, my first customer and my first real friend since I came here. Rias' cheeks reddened by both his actions and words, but then a soft smile appeared on her lips as she snuggled closer to him. Rias wanted to enjoy this moment, and didn't have any plans to ruin it. Oni-sama? A soft gasp made both Naruto and Rias jump in surprise, while the former cursed himself for letting his guard down like that. He had enjoyed this way too much to the point he had come to completely oblivious of his surroundings. When he turned his head toward the kitchen's door, Naruto was met with a fuming Asia Argento, looking at both of them with blushing cheeks and an angry, yet extremely cute expression on her face. Oh, hey Asia. Naruto grinned sheepishly and released Rias, who glared at Asia for ruining the moment. Mao, I didn't know that Rias-senpai and Naruto and Ai-sama like each other, Asia pouted while glaring at Rias, but I won't lose to you, Rias-senpai. You won't lose to me? Really, Asia-chan? Rias folded her arms underneath her big and walked to Asia. Looking down at the younger girl with a playful smirk, don't you realize that you're already losing? Rias slightly pushed her up to make them look bigger, making the blush on Asia's face even redder. The girls continued to glare at each other while Naruto kept turning his head back and forth between both of them. After a minute his patience ran out and Naruto decided to speak up. What are you two talking about anyway? Naruto stood up and looked at Asia. Asia, are you feeling hungry? Let's me heat up dinner for you. Of course, Nisama. Asia nodded her head rapidly and ran to stay by his say, not forgetting to stick her tongue out at Rias. The crimson heiress just giggled while keeping her eyes on the two blondes. Then her face turned into a frown as she remembered who would come tomorrow to have a meeting with her and her peerage. But she wouldn't back down. Not after she had just found out the right one to be with. Excuse me, can you tell me where can I find Rias Gremory-san? SSGI is in her clubroom at the old school building. Thank you. Kaya. Naruto-sama just talked to me. Naruto chuckled quietly as he walked through the corridors of Koa Academy after asking for the whereabouts of Rias from a group of second-year girls. Naruto walked out of the new school building with his hands in his pockets. For some reason, he couldn't sense Rias' signature anymore, and that was why he had to ask for her probable location. Then, when Naruto was about to enter the old school building, he suddenly found his body unable to continue forwards. Frowning, Naruto used his hand to touch the air in front of him and felt something akin to a wall blocking his path. No wonder he couldn't sense Rias or Akino. Grinning, Naruto made some hand seals before clapping his hands together. In a puff of smoke, a piece of paper appeared in his hands along with a brush and bottle of ink. The blonde smirked as he began to write some complicated kanji onto the paper. Bad move, Rias-chan, you're messing with a Fuinjutsu master here. I wonder how she'll react? Naruto finished his work and brought the paper up to the invisible barrier and channeled his chakra into the piece of paper. Instantly, the barrier disappeared and Naruto walked into the school building without any problem. Now he was able to sense Rias' group's signature along with a large amount of other presences he didn't recognize. Though he was able to detect a very familiar one among them. A party or something? Naruto wondered. Rias, how about we have a match in 10 days? We could do it now, but that wouldn't be interesting. When Naruto came near enough, he heard an unfamiliar voice, full of arrogance, belonging to a male, probably about his age. Are you giving me a handicap? Naruto heard Rias say, though he had never heard her voice with so much frustration in them before. Things were definitely heating up in there. Are you against it? Is it humiliating? A rating game isn't something simple that you can win with only your feelings. If you can't use your servant's power to their fullest potential, then you will lose immediately. So it's not weird for you to train with your servants for your first rating game. I have seen devils who lost because they didn't use their power to the fullest countless of times, no matter how great their potential and power was. Nice speech. Naruto thought to himself, but that speech would be so much nicer if the one who said it from the deepest part of their heart, not because they looked down on other people. This guy must be very confident in his power and full of himself. Who's there? Graphia suddenly said, making the room fall into silence. Though she trailed off near the end, which meant she had recognized who was the person that was eavesdropping on them. Decided to play dumb, Naruto put his hand on the handle and pushed open the door. Oh hey, sorry to disturb, but I'm looking for Rias Gremory. Naruto grinned while scratching the back of his head. Oh hey Rias-chan. He grinned broadly at the Crimson Heiress who was looking at him with her mouth agape. And Naruto-kun? Akino was the first one who recovered by his sudden appearance. She, like everyone else, was wondering how he was able to get past the barrier around the old school building, which was cast by Graphia herself. Can I come in? Naruto looked around the room and saw a tall man with blonde hair, wearing an expensive-looking suit with his chest exposed a little. He was looking at him with disgust in his eyes. No. Yes. Rias and Graphia then turned their heads to look at each other, a frown appearing on both of their beautiful faces. Graphia, he is my guest and this is my clubroom. Naruto-kun can come in if he wants to, Rias said clearly. Unfortunately, Ojo-sama, this matter isn't for outsiders to hear, Graphia said with a calm and emotionless tone to Rias before turning her head to Naruto. So Naruto-san, can you please leave this room immediately? You can come over later. Naruto had to hold back a wolf whistle at that. Graphia was like a completely different woman. The look on her face and the possible threat in her tone could send anyone running away with their tail between their legs. She was completely serious, though he had to admit she did look really good in that French-made outfit. Damn, no need to be so cold, maid-san. Naruto laughed nervously, decided to play dumb for now. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of small visiting cards. I just want to give Rias-chan and her club my new visiting cards for my ramen stand, that's all. Business has been really good lately, so I want to increase our area notability. He said mainly to himself and went inside the room to give them the visiting cards, one for each member of the Occult Research Club, which they took it gratefully while Issei looked a little scared. Naruto could tell that he was in pain, like he just got into a fight. The blonde then turned to Graphia and handed her a card. You too, maid-san. If you have free time, feel free to come over and give us a try. He smirked. I will, Naruto-san, she said with the same stern voice and stoic tone. Damn, she is so professional, Naruto thought to himself as he looked at the maid with amusement. Then the blonde turned his head to the unfamiliar faces in the room and saw that most of them were females, with beauty ranging from cute to downright gorgeous, though nowhere near the level of his friends. However, the look on the other blonde man's face was slowly getting on his nerves. Naruto was never one who liked those with holier-than-thou attitudes, especially from one that was also looking at him with disgust. Hey, you girls want to try Uzumaki ramen sometime? The blood asked while grinning broadly, making a number of the girls in front of him blush furiously. He could hear Graphia sigh quietly behind him, like she had expected him to say something like that. Before he could give them the cards, their male leader held out his hand to block his path. You got a problem, dude? Naruto asked, still keeping the grin on his face. How dare you present such a filthy food to my servants? The man said with an arrogant tone. You have no idea what are you talking about, dude. Naruto's grin disappeared from his face and was replaced with a scowl. Faster than anyone's eyes could see, Naruto had grabbed the man by his collar and smashed his forehead into the slightly taller blonde's face before pushing him away, much to everyone's shock. No one insults the wonder that is ramen, no one databao. He pointed his finger at the son of Phoenix household, shouting out his thoughts along with his forever trademark catchphrase. Just after Rias managed to pick her mouth off the ground, the Crimson Heiress began to giggle at the pathetic form of her aggressor, who was clutching his nose in pain while lying on the ground. Graphia just sighed. For some reason she had already knew he would do something like that. You, how dare you do this to me, you lowly human? Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. There was no blood on the guy's face, nose, nor did it look broken. He would have to ask Graphia about this later. You're talking like you're not human. Naruto raised an eyebrow while pretending to be in amusement by the blonde's joke. The group of girls from earlier had already recovered from the shock and were now glaring daggers at him for hurting their master, though a petite girl with drilled twintails was looking at him with confusion. His name, it's oddly familiar, she wondered to herself. She swore that she had read that name before in one of the very old books in her family's personal library, though she couldn't remember which one. You. That's quite enough, Riser-sama. Grafia spoke up in a cold, chilling tone. So that's the prick's name. Naruto thought before hearing Grafia continue. If you say anything further, I will have to cut short this meeting right here by force. She finished emotionlessly, making Riser gulp nervously with a pale white face. Naruto looked at Grafia. The silver-haired maid had to be extremely powerful and fearsome among devils to have such an impact like that to someone who had clearly lived most of his life looking down on everyone whose status was lower than his. Right, Razor muttered to himself, earning a nod from Grafia. Good. Then, Grafia turned her eyes to the vice president of ORC Club, Akeno-san. Please escort Naruto-san outside so we can finish this meeting without any more trouble. Yes, Grafia-san. Akeno nodded her head before turning to the blonde. Naruto-kun, please follow me. Just a minute, Akeno-chan. Naruto brought his hand up to stop her before he walked up to the girls behind Riser and gave them the cards. Make sure to pay a visit later, okay? He grinned at the last girl who was the only one who didn't glare at him. She nodded her head slowly while sporting a small blush on her face. Right, off I go. See ya later, Rias-chan. Naruto waved to her and walked out of the room with Akeno following closely behind. When the two finally got out of the building, Akeno led him to a nearby bench to sit down with him. Akeno wanted to stay to make sure that Naruto wouldn't come inside again, but mainly she wanted to spend some time with him to get to know the mysterious blonde who had caught the interest of her king, whose name happened to appear in every conversation the two had. So, who was the guy? Naruto asked with a bored tone. He is Riser Phoenix-sama, Akeno informed him. Bucho's fiancé. Naruto widened his eyes. That was her future husband. No wonder why she was so against this marriage. That guy needs to remove that stick from his ass really soon, Naruto said casually, earning a slap on the arm from a giggling Akeno. You shouldn't say that, Naruto-kun. Reaching into her skirt's pocket, Akeno pulled out the visiting card Naruto had given to her. So, no longer a humble small ramen stand owner, Naruto-kun? Yeah, like I said, business has been really good recently. He chuckled. I mean, I have a cute, little angel for a sister as my waitress, and I also have two beautiful girls, who happen to be the two most popular girls of Ko Academy, visit my stand daily. He said, making Akeno giggle while covering her mouth with her hand, a pink hue dusting her cheeks. Alright, I will make sure to stop over soon, Akeno said before standing up and smiling warmly to him. See you later, Naruto-kun. She then turned around and returned to her clubroom, not realizing that when she turned around, her skirt had been lifted up by the wind and exposed what was underneath to the very eyes of the Ika Paradise series' author. Black? Good for her. Naruto muttered to himself before standing up and returning to the new school building. Asia was probably come looking for him by now, better not let her be an easy target for any lustful teenagers. Asia, you think I need to keep our store name Uzumaki Ramen or change it to The Wonderful of Ramen? I think we should just leave it as Uzumaki Ramen, Nisama. Naruto shrugged his shoulder and continued to bring tables, chairs, and a lot of other things into his newly bought house, which would become the place they would be working from next week onward. Asia was helping him with leaning, but with just two people, even with one with superhuman strength, it still already took them more than 3 hours to get things done. He had already hired extra help, mainly waitresses, because Asia wouldn't be able to solo all of the customers herself. Of course, he was planning to hire an assistant chef as well, but he doubted that they would be able to get the taste of Uzumaki Ramen right. Naruto-kun. The door of his new store opened. Naruto looked up when his name was called, and his face then turned into a grin when he saw his favorite crimson-haired customer. Ohio, Rias-chan. Naruto greeted Rias cheerfully. Hello, Rias-senpai. Asia bowed her head with a small smile, holding the broomstick in her hands. Hey, Asia-chan. Rias waved slightly to her before turning back to Naruto. Naruto-kun, can I talk to you in private? Sure. Naruto nodded and led her to the back room. He closed the door behind them and asked with a warm voice, Rias-chan, what's wrong? Naruto-kun, I won't be able to attend school for 10 days. Really? Why? Naruto asked, not that surprised because he already knew about what would happen in 10 days. This rating game Riser had talked about. Rias definitely need time to prepare. I'd prefer not talk about it, Rias said uneasily, but my future depend on this. I understand, Rias-chan. Naruto nodded and patted her head, but when things go the way you want, bring everyone to my store to celebrate on the house. Thank you. Rias smiled to him before throwing her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly against her. Thank you, she whispered as Naruto slowly brought his arms around her. I thought you would ask him to be your servant? Akino asked as she stood with her back leaning against the wall next to Uzumaki Ramen. No, Akino, we can't prepare Naruto in just 10 days. Issei will suffice. Plus, I don't want him to get hurt. Razor will probably single him out because of the humiliation Naruto gave him yesterday, Rias said firmly before turning her head to her queen. Let's go, Akino. Shauna Lucifer, formerly Shauna Gremory, sat beside her son's bed, quietly moving a few strands of crimson hair away from her son's adorable face. Sleep well, my son, Shauna whispered before standing up, planting a soft kiss on her 10-year-old son's forehead. Shauna, as quietly as she could, slowly opened the door of her son's room and walked out. Shauna-sama, Grafia said in a low tone. Grafia, Shauna smiled at her queen before starting to return to her chambers. It's a beautiful night, isn't it? Yes, Shauna-sama. Grafia nodded her head. Beautiful night, just like 10 years ago. Shauna's smile slowly left her face. Grafia's emotionless expression quivered slightly before she regained her composure. What happened 10 years ago was always a highly disconcerting topic for both of them, especially around this time of the year. She had to be careful with her emotion and words, or else all the efforts she made these past 2 months would become void. You remember him? Shauna asked as she turned back to the silver-haired maid. Ah, come on, drop that blank face and answer me truthfully. Yes, Shauna-sama, I still remember Naruto-sama. There's not a single day I'm not thinking about him, Grafia said truthfully. Of course, Shauna chuckled, because after all, you love him just as much as I do. Grafia's expression remained impassive, but her eyes softened just a little. I wonder what would it be like if he was still here. Grafia looked at the woman in front of her, who a long time ago used to be her most dangerous rival. Would we still be looking at each other with heated glares? Would we still be fighting to the point where we would nearly kill each other if not for him deciding to intervene and then scold us like children? Shauna asked while leaning her arms on the window's frame and put her upper body out, her hair flowing in the wind. I miss those days, Grafia. Grafia bit her lower lip as she gripped her uniform skirt tightly. Shauna had changed so much without Naruto around. She hated it. They were supposed to fight each other to decide who would be the alpha, and then at the end of the day would just laugh it off like it was nothing. Grafia looked at herself, even she had changed so much without him. Please wait for me, Shauna. I promise I will bring him back for both of us. Grafia Lucifuge walked toward the kitchen to prepare for the upcoming event that would take place at Gremory residence tomorrow night. Tomorrow night would be the wedding between 2 high-class devils and the unification of 2 great families. The wedding of Rias Gremory and Razor Phoenix. 10 days had passed since the day Razor came into Rias' clubroom and challenged her in a rating game, the game that Rias knew she would lose before the match even began. It was clear to Grafia that Rias' attempt was out of desperation, hoping a miracle that would happen to her and her peerage. While each and every single members of Rias' peerage were very talented and held great potential, it was still a match between 16 and 5. Not only Razor had the advantage of number, he also was well prepared and experienced. Rias losing was understandable, and no one could blame her. She had been busy all day, since yesterday, when Grafia herself declared the defeat of Rias Gremory. As a servant of Mao Lucifer, who had been assigned to make the preparation for the wedding with nothing but perfection, Grafia took pleasure and responsibility in doing her job, knowing full well how important this wedding would be. But her mind thought about Naruto, wondering what would he say if he found out Rias was getting married. Of course the blonde wouldn't be pleased at all. In fact, if he was still the person he used to be, Naruto would most likely stomp into Phoenix residence and force them to cancel the engagement between 2 families. However, Grafia knew full well he would do just that if he found out the way to get into the underworld. Shauna had been very distracted recently, and it wasn't just because her adorable sister getting married, but also that day was coming near. Tomorrow, exactly 10 years ago, was the day Shauna thought she had lost everything. The day Naruto had given his life to save Milikas. Grafia still remembered how Shauna fell apart at his funeral, which had been organized secretly. 2 months later, the Mao Lucifer still barely kept herself together. She didn't eat, nor sleep, nor go out of her room. Sometimes, Grafia even found the crimson-haired woman lost unconscious on her bed. Shauna abandoned the duty as a Mao. She abandoned her duty as a mother. Only when Rias, holding Milikas in her arms, came into her room and asked her out to play with them, looking as innocent as children always, was Shauna had begun to return to her old self and get over her loss. Thanks to 2 of the most important ones in her life, the underworld had gotten their leader back. But unlike everyone, Grafia knew full well that Shauna had never gotten over Naruto's death. She just pretended to be happy for the sake of her son, her little sister, and all her closest ones, yet deep down inside she was a broken woman. Shauna loved Naruto too much to be able to forget him. When Rias came to Shauna's office and told them about a young man named Naruto, hope had appeared in Graphia but not Shauna, who stubbornly refused the possible idea of maybe, just maybe, Naruto was still alive. Graphia hadn't been there for them that day 10 years ago, but this time, for once she would bring them back together. Suddenly, the sound of her personal phone snapped the silver-haired maid out of her train of thoughts. Curiously, Graphia excused herself to somewhere more private and summoned her cell phone out from her dimensional pocket. Graphia turned on the device and felt her heart skipped when she saw the numbers. Naruto-sama. No need for such honorable suffix, Graphia. Naruto's playful voice was heard from the other side of the line. How are you? I'm fine, thank you, Naruto-sama, she said quickly and couldn't help herself to smile a little. So, how things going with you? Naruto asked. How come you haven't come to my store yet? I am so sorry, Naruto-sama, Graphia said with embarrassment in her voice. With all the preparation for the match between Rias and Razor and now for the upcoming wedding, Graphia had become very busy lately, and couldn't find herself thinking anything other than her work. Relax, Graphia, I just kidding. Naruto chuckled. Speaking of which, care to tell me why Rias wasn't at school this morning? This rating game was yesterday, right? Graphia frowned. Would she be able to tell Naruto what happened to Rias? From the looks of it, she could already tell that the blonde wasn't like Razor Phoenix one bit. Would he let Rias be with someone that she didn't love and love her back? Even without his memories, Naruto had shown signs of being very protective of the next heir of Gremory clan. Did she lose? His voice was calm. Fair and square? Naruto-sama. Graphia didn't know what to do. For once she was at loss for words. Tell me everything. Naruto Uzumaki sat down on a table near the window and turned his eyes to look at the petite form of his foster sister, who was rushing back and forth enjoying herself in her new work alongside the waitresses of Uzumaki Ramen, serving the customers the best ramen in the world that they couldn't find anywhere. Asia had always been their favorite since the day Naruto opened his store. Her innocent and cheerful nature, along with the usual happy smile, easily melted the hearts of anyone. However, his work wasn't the only thing that was on his mind right now. The most troublesome matter Naruto was trying to solve was Rias Gremory and her upcoming wedding. Naruto knew that he shouldn't stick his nose into other people or devil's business in this case, and that was how he had lived all these years since he left Konoha. Stay out of the trouble. But at the same time, it wouldn't be Naruto Uzumaki to leave something like that happen to one of his friends, especially Rias. For some reason, he felt the need to help her just as much, if not evener, than when he wanted to save Asia. When the blonde began to think back about what Graphia had told him, he caught sight of a familiar girl wearing a pink dress with strange decoration like phoenix's tails on the small point of her back. Her drills-like blonde hair stood out very much among the crowd, which she was getting very uncomfortable with the stare she was receiving. Her blue eyes then met Naruto's azure one, and the eternal shinobi finally saw the visiting card he had given her nearly a week ago in Rias' clubroom. What can I say? Naruto muttered to himself when he saw her walking as fast as she could to his store's direction. My first inhuman customer is an Oja-sama. Just from the look of it, he could already tell she was a rich princess who was spoiled most of her life. Well, hello? Naruto Uzumaki. The girl pointed her finger at him after she had busted into the store, her other hand on her hip as she cut off his greeting. How dare you make a girl like me wait for 3 hours and didn't come out to greet me like a low-class being you are. A tick mark appeared on his forehead as Naruto listened to her frustrated insults. He would have to give her credit though. She had chosen the right word to call him so that she wouldn't reveal herself as non-human being. However, she was drawing a lot of stares from everyone, so Naruto stood up and walked toward her. First thing, lady, we don't have a special greeting service, especially for someone like you, and I don't remember I had told you to wait for me. He walked to her left side before shooting his hand out and grabbed the collar of her pink dress and lifted her off the ground, making the blonde cry out in surprise. Second, keep your damn voice down, you're disturbing others. How dare you talk to me that way? Put me down this instant. Ravel shouted out while waving her arms wildly in the air. Naruto just sighed and walked to his table, placing her down to sit in front of him. Thank you, she said gratefully while sighing in relief. Asia, come here please. Naruto called out to his foster sister after sitting down. Yes, Oniai-sama. Asia came to their table while looking at the other blonde nervously. By now everyone had returned to their own meal. Give this girl the menu, I think she is very hungry. Waiting for him for 3 hours? Did she have that much patience? And how in this bloody world did she think that he would be there to get her when she arrived? Hi, Oniai-sama. Asia said and handed Revel the menu she was holding. Here you go, miss. At least your sister has some manners. The girl huffed and looked at the menu, then her face turned into a frown then confusion. I will take, she muttered. One miso ramen for her, Asia. Naruto quickly said, earning a nod from the former nun who quickly drifted off to take the girl's order. Thank you, it's just I never ate this ramen before, so the blonde said while playing with her dress, looking extremely uncomfortable. Don't worry, you're not the only one who didn't know about it, let alone eat it. Naruto smiled at her. It was the truth, he had met a lot of them people like her on his journey, mainly extremely rich people who happened to eat luxurious foods every day. So, what's your name? My name is Revel Phoenix. I'm Razor Phoenix's sister. She paused before continuing. The one you crashed your forehead into. It's called Butthead, by the way, Naruto said. This girl was Razor Phoenix's sister? At least she didn't have that arrogant attitude around her. Revel just used to the way she had been treated since the day she was born. So what are you doing here at my humbling ramen store, Revel-sama? Naruto asked with a slight mocking tone, making the daughter of Phoenix Clan puff her cheeks in annoyance. I want to know who you are. Well, sorry, but I don't plan to find a girlfriend right now, maybe with someone more mature. Mao, you're annoying. Revel pouted before looking around, like she was trying to make sure no one was eavesdropping them before turning her head back to him. I want to know if you're really human or not. That statement made Naruto's blood turn cold but managed to keep a straight face. Here you go. Asia suddenly appeared before them and gently sat the steaming bowl of miso ramen down on table. I hope you have a great meal. She bowed before quickly ran to other customers. So how should I eat this? Revel asked while holding the chopsticks in her hand, a spoon in other, looking uncomfortable. Just eat all you want. Naruto informed the younger blonde, making Revel nodded her head. And I don't know what you are talking about, by the way. Don't try to act stupid. I found your name in a very old comic book for children in my old library. Screw it. Naruto now was looking at her with wide eyes. Him? In a book? In the normal situation this was as cool as hell. Your name, the way you look, even the way you love ramen is in said book. Revel pointed out. I tried to ask others, even came to the bookstore, but found out that for some reason they had stopped publishing this book 10 years ago. This girl, she is sharp, Naruto thought to himself as he looked at Revel in amazement. Information gathering was one of the most important things that would help you survive. It was one of many things Shikamaru had taught him long ago. And Revel, Naruto had seen the confusion on her face when Rias said his name in that clubroom. There was a chance that she already recognized his name there, and went to look for him in anything he could find. First Graphia, now her. Who's next? This is so delicious. Ravel's purrs pulled Naruto out of his thought. The daughter of Phoenix Clan was eating the ramen with glee in her eyes anyway. Maybe it was someone that has the same name as I have, and who know, maybe he also loves ramen like me. The blonde deflected casually. Or tried to. No, I'm sure it was you. Revel said deadpan stubbornly. Sorry to bust the bubble, but I got work to do. Naruto informed her before standing up and made to leave when. Please, you have to save Rias-sama. Naruto stopped dead in his tracks and sat down to look at the drill-haired girl before he even knew it. Why? Naruto asked. She lost, and Rias has to keep her promise to your brother. It's their deal. He already knows? How? Ravel's eyes widened. She put the chopsticks and spoon to the table before saying. But she is not happy. Naruto stayed silent and waited for her to continue. Rias-sama hasn't come out of her room since yesterday. She didn't eat anything or wanted to meet anyone. Revel said sadly. My brother won the match, but it was because he had prepared beforehand and had more experience. It wasn't fair for her. Everything is fair in a battle, Revel. She lost because she didn't prepare for the match, gathering every information she needed to win. Naruto said dispassionately. But it was a match of 15-4. How is that fair? Revel stood up and reached into her pocket before pulling out a big stash of money and slammed it on the table. Thank you for the meal, I never seen someone as heartless as you. And stomped out of the store, the same way she came in. Naruto just sighed, ignoring the stares others were giving him. Naruto paid no heed to those eyes, though his mind was crowded with thoughts and possible decisions. What to do? Reaching into his pocket, Naruto pulled out his phone and looked for the numbers he needed. A day later. Two figures clad in black cloaks walked through the crowded street of Lilith. From the curves of their body, everyone could tell that they were females. However, the citizens Lilith paid no mind to the two as they continued to work their job. The two women walked into the park and came to the wildest area of it. There were no trees or any benches around, One of them suddenly raised their hands up and muttered some unknown words. 2 magical circles appeared above her as a large, translucent, crimson barrier appeared above their head and slowly spread out towards the ground. When the barrier touched the ground, it finally engulfed both of them and disappeared. "Everything," said Shana-sama. "Thank you, Graphia." The woman pulled the hood of her cloak down, revealing herself to be Shana Lucifer. Followed her king's lead, Graphia pulled down her hood and made her cloak disappear. When another magic circle appeared, a bunch of flowers filled with crimson roses slowly materializing in the silver-haired maid's hands. "We should hurry, Shana-sama. The wedding will begin soon." "I know, Graphia. This will only take a minute." Nodding at her personal maid's words, the crimson Mao turned around and stretched out both of her hands. An enormous crimson magic circle with the insignia of Gremry household appeared, spreading through the ground of entire area. Before the 2 women appeared a medium-sized stone grave with the symbol of Gremry clan carved on the top. "Here lies Naruto Uzumaki. A great friend, great teacher, great brother, great father. A loving husband." There were no years. Tears fell from Shana's eyes as she furiously wiped them away. It's been 10 years since that day, and not a single day had gone by when she hadn't tried to come here if not for Graphia reminded her of the duty as Mao. 10 years had passed since the day Naruto given his life to save their newborn child, who had been taken from her by the man she called brother. She was too weak to do anything back then, so their child's fate had been put onto his shoulder as he pushed through enemy lines with ease and reached her brother. When she had gathered enough strength to walk there by herself, Shana was greeted with the sight of her loving husband, holding Milikas protectively in his arms while Surzex fell to the ground with a kunai impaled deeply into his heart. Tear of joy, tear of happiness fell from her eyes that day, but it soon turned into tear of horror when she saw the terrified look on her peerage's face, who just arrived after taking care of the large group of stray devils attacking the city. Naruto fell to the ground by a bullet that has gone all the way through his head. Aside from herself and Graphia, Rias had been the one who had been affected the most by his sudden departure. She was too young to handle the death of her favorite person back then. Shana remembered her sister crying for days, screaming her husband's name until her throat was nearly ripped apart. For Rias' sake, they had to erase her memories and then later erased his existence. The adults were forbidden to tell their child about him. His name had been erased from all the history books, even Graphia's romantic story with him had been changed as well. It was a painful decision for Shana and the other Mao, especially Shana herself. Naruto should be remembered as a hero, not be totally forgotten sans the adult like this. But she had no other choice. Rias was her beloved sister, and Shana loved her just as much as Naruto. If not because of Rias' old self returned to her, Shana wouldn't be able to recover from such thing. A day after their parents erased her memories, Rias was the one who came to her room with a 2-month-old Milikas in arms, asking her to go out and play with them. Shana took the bunch of flower from Graphia's hand and gently laid it down in front of Naruto's grave. "Hey Naruto-kun," Shana said gently with a small smile. "Milikas is 10-year-old now. We just celebrated his birthday this morning. He was so happy when all his friends came to play with him. Oh, and Rias is going to get married this night, isn't it great? The same girl who chasing after you and said she will steal you away from me when she grow up," Shana said with a small chuckle before her face turned into a frown. "We want her to be happy, but she looked so sad when I went to see her. Did we do the right thing, Naruto-kun? You had taught me to always follow my heart, but I can't favor a single devil over the other even if she was my own sister." A sad expression appeared on her face, unshed tears welling in her beautiful eyes. "What should I do now, Naruto-kun?" "Shana-sama, it's time." Shana's head jerked up as the voice of her queen. "Just give me a second, Graphia," Shana growled forcefully before turning her head back to Naruto's grave. "I just hope that someone will come and save her. If you're listening to me now, please let it be the right one." "Shana-sama." "I know, Graphia, I had to go now, Naruto-kun." Whispering the last word in sadness, the Crimson Mao turned around. "I love you," and walked off while wiping her tears. Graphia just turned back to the Naruto's grave, wanted nothing more than blow it apart. But now wasn't the time for that. Tonight, at the wedding, the underworld knew everything would change. "Yudo-kun, where is Issei-kun?" Akino Himejima asked while looking around. Dressed into an elegant kimono, the Queen of Rias was drawing a lot of attention from the male population around her. "I thought he was coming with you." "He's still recovering, Akino-san," Kiba said with a forced smile, remembering how Issei had reacted when he came to his house to help. "But he will come soon. I left a special teleporting spell to him just in case." He was dressing in a black tuxedo that fit him well. Like Akino, he was also receiving a lot of attention from others, but mostly females thanks to his charming smile. Why do I have feeling he might do something stupid? The Queen of Rias asked herself. Time. Kaniko's short statement made all three members of Rias peerage turn their head to look at the main area of the head of Gremory's hall, where a familiar column of flame appeared in the symbol of Gremory clan. Razor Phoenix appeared out of the flame with a smug grin on his face. This is such a wonderful day. It's not just the day of my wonderful wedding but also the unity of two powerful families. Everyone, let me present you my Queen Rias Gremory, he said and outstretched his arm and a crimson magic circle appeared beside him. Rias Gremory appeared out of the circle in her white wedding dress, looking extremely stunning and beautiful that soon captured the heart of many males in the room. But her eyes were closed, and her head lowered in defeat. Just then, the door of the hall busted open and a certain pervert stepped into the room before screaming with all his might. Butchuchu! Issei Haida's scream made the devils in the room turn their heads to look at him with wide eyes before everybody burst into shocked chatter. Rias also looking at Issei with wide eyes, she didn't expect him to come here shouting like that. To all the high-class devils here. And Butcho's sister, Mao-sama. My name is Haida Issei from Ko Academy. I have arrived to take back Butcho, Rias Gremory-sama. The hall becomes even noisier at his speech. Without any care about them, Issei walked towards Rias and Razor with hateful glare to the youngest son of Phoenix clan. Hey you! Do you know where this? A guard came to stop him, but before he could do anything, 3 shadows suddenly appeared before him. Aisei-kun! Leave this to us. You are late. Era, so you finally showed up. Kiba, Kaniko and Akino. All of them were stopping those who were trying to get in Issei's way. Thank you? Issei thanked them quietly and went towards Razor confidently. When Pawn of Rias Gremory faced him up front, he said it straight at Razor without shame. Butcho, Rias Gremory-sama's virginity belongs to me. Razor makes a face that you couldn't explain with words. What's the meaning of this, Razor? Hey, Lady Rias. What's the meaning of this? Relatives and authorized people were making unsettled faces and they were panicking. No one could blame them though. It's an event that I organized. A soft and feminine voice made everyone turn their head to the door. Issei felt his heart stopped when he seen the woman that was walking in the hall with Grafia followed behind. She looked like a much more mature and, if it even possible, more beautiful than Rias herself. The elegant black dress she was wearing made her charms stood out even more, easily making her the most beautiful woman that was present. Shana Lucifer and her queen, Grafia Lucifuge, had arrived. Nei-sama, Rias said, making Issei's jaw dropped. I wanted to see the power of the dragon, so I asked Grafia. Shana said casually in a calm voice. As Shana-sama, you can't do something irresponsible like this. A middle-aged looking devil panicked. It should be fine. The raiding game, from last time, was very entertaining. But it was a bit disadvantage for my little sister who had no game experience to face off against Razor-kun, who is a prodigy from the House of Phoenix. So Shana-sama, you are saying that the last game wasn't fair? No, not at all. If a mouse such as me says such thing, then I would be making the old nobles look bad. The connection between the high-class devils is important after all. Shana said it with a smile, ignoring all the stares she was receiving. Then, Shana, what do you want to do about it? A man stepped out with crimson hair asked. Shana smiled. In truth, this was an event that had suddenly appeared and she wasn't planned anything about it. But if she played her card right, she might be able to hello her sister. Father, I want to make my cute little sister's engagement party into a flashy one. Dragon versus Phoenix. Don't you think it's the ultimate event? To stir up the party by having a battle between legendary creatures. There aren't any entertainments which can surpass this. Everyone in the hall became silent with Shana's confession, which then turned her eyes to look at Issei. Dragon User-kun, you have our permission. Razor, can you show your power once more right in front of Rias and I? Hearing the most powerful devil's wish, Razor made a fearless smile. Very well. There is no way I can decline if Shana-sama asks me. This Razor will show his last performance before getting married. Shana nodded before turning her head to Issei. Dragon User-kun, what prize do you want when you win the match? Shana-sama. What are you saying? He's a devil, so we need to give him something fitting for it since we are asking him to do something for us. The mouse smiled and waved her hand carefreely now then. I can give you anything. A peerage? Or the most beautiful woman? Issei seemed to consider each option for a moment before saying, I ask you to give me Rias Gremory-sama back. Shauna then made a very happy face when Issei answered her without any pause. Very well. If you win, you may. But once again the door to the hall was forced open. This time, a guard came in, and it seemed he was in a hurry. What happened now? A young man with athletic build muttered to himself, looking at the guard who was trying to catch his breath with interested eyes. Mao-sama, there's a human out there, the guard said quickly, making the hall gasp in shock. Rias' eyes widened slightly while a smile appeared on Graphia's face. He is coming to this place and pushing through us like we're nothing. He also said he came here to help Rias-sama keep her promise. Wait, what promise? Rias asked in a hopeful tone, if the person appeared to be whom she thought they were then. Before anyone could make any more noise, the form of a soldier flew past in the door with extreme speed, made them all widen their eyes in shock. Another, then another soldier, they all could hear the fighting sound now. And then, there was silence. All the noise stopped save for the footstep of an unknown person. Dur, who's there? Show yourself? Razor asked impatiently and flared out his flame. Rias' nose then caught the familiar scent of Uzumaki ramen. She used her hands to cover her mouth, hiding the happiness in her smile as tears formed in her eyes. Ravel, who was standing with the rest of Razor's peerage, let out a relief sigh without knowing. He does care, Ravel thought to herself. I was wrong. Ramen delivery here for Rias Gremory. A young man stepped into the room with a large wooden box in his hands. He was wearing casual clothes with baggy jeans and orange t-shirt with a cap hiding his face, but anyone could see the grin forming on it. The boy looked at the paper in his other hand before throwing it behind him casually. Shauna's heart turned cold when she recognized him. And then she wanted to speak out his name. Her face was filled with horror as the event of 10 years ago flashed through her mind. She tried to move forward, but her legs were too weak and failed her. If not for Graphia, who quickly caught Shauna in her arms, she would be on the ground right now. You're that lowly who? Shut up, Razor, the young man called out while walking through the crowd of devils. I came here to deliver the ramen, not talk with you. And he stopped in front of Rias. Naruto-kun, Rias said, making all the older devils in the room gasp in pure shock, but the Crimson Heiress was too happy to pay her mind to them. Next time you make a promise to me, make sure you can keep it, because after all, Naruto took the cap of his head and gave Rias his grin. It's not every day you get Naruto Uzumaki to deliver you free ramen. What? Nearly everyone, nearly every adult single devils in the room screamed out in shock. Naruto, Rias and the other young devils looked around in curiosity, no more than Naruto himself, but they were greeted with the shock expression on their father, mother, uncle, brother's face. All of them were also directly looking towards Naruto. It's impossible, a man shouted out. You can't possibly be Naruto Uzumaki-sama. Well, for your information, nothing is impossible to me. Naruto smirked confidently before saying with a normal voice, and last time I checked, I'm the only Uzumaki around here, with the name of fish cake in it. Naruto grinned smugly, proud of his own joke. But then the hall exploded in chaos, with everyone screaming and shouting at him, calling him a liar and anything akin to that. The blonde just sighed. Ravel had said his name was in a comic book, but he didn't know that he was this famous among them. But what confused him the most was that he didn't know anything about it. Silence. He saw the man with crimson hair like Rias, standing near a young woman with the face oddly resembled. Rias shouted with authority before looking at Naruto. His eyes softened. Naruto-sama, is that really you? Yeah. Naruto nodded his head. But how? He whispered. While Naruto was looking around him in confusion, Graphia had guided Shauna to a chair and helped her sat down. Handing her queen a glass of water, the silver-haired maid had already predicted her king would be reacted this way when she saw Naruto. Graphia, how is this possible? Shauna muttered to the one who used to be her rival. How can he survive after that? I saw him die, held him in my arms. She sobbed. Shauna-sama, it's really him. Please listen to me, Graphia said, with a very different tone than her usual. From the day Rias came to your office and told us about a young man named Naruto, I had tried everything to get in contact with him. Graphia lowered her voice so that only Shauna would hear her and decided to leave out what happened after they got to know each other at that bar. At first I thought this was some kind of sick joke, but I had confirmed that it was him. Then I have to meet him this instant. Shauna was about to stand up, but Graphia had pulled her back down to the chair. He lost his memories, Shauna-sama. Graphia shook her head sadly. I don't think he will remember you, or any one of us. I guess it has something to do with being shot in the head, and having his brain destroyed. What should we do now, Graphia? I don't want to lose him again. Shauna began to get panic, she couldn't think anything. Her heart was filled with the need to be with him. We should take it easy for him, Shauna-sama. Naruto-sama is here to save Rias-sama. We should let him do it first before doing anything else. Shauna nodded her head and wiped the tears at the corner of her eyes. With him saving Rias-sama, this will be our first move to bring back his existence to the world. I will trust you this time, Grafia. Shauna hugged her queen. And thank you for bringing him back. As Grafia began to cast a secret communication spell so that she could tell all the older devils what to do, Shauna made her way toward the love of her life with her heart pounding ly against her chest. Meanwhile, Naruto was looking at Razor with amusement, while the son of Phoenix clan was looking at the other blonde in disgust. Issei was casting his eyes between them uneasily while Rias was standing directly behind Naruto. Shauna-sama. Razor then saw the Mao approaching them. Please send this filthy human back to the human world so that we could begin the match. When he turned around and looked at the one who was behind him, Naruto was greeted with the most beautiful face he had ever seen in his life, which was greatly resembled Rias but more mature. Long flowing crimson-haired, big innocent blue-green eyes, a face that could steal anyone's heart. Her elegant and expensive-looking dress hugging every curve of her body, showing off her large breasts while letting her back bare. Naruto's heart skipped a bit when he looked at her. She looked oddly familiar. Rias saw the look in Naruto's eyes and felt a little jealous. She then elbowed him on his back to bring Naruto back to the real world. Ouch, what's that for? Naruto whispered. Nothing. Rias answered back innocently. Unfortunately, Razor-kun, I can't do that, Shauna said with a smile, acting as normally as she could and was doing a very good job at that. What? Why? I think like Dragon User-kun here, someone also want to speak out his opinion. Shauna turned her head to look at Naruto. But first, Naruto-kun, can you tell me the other reason why you come here? Well, it's true that Rias-chan said she would come to my ramen store to have a free ramen to celebrate her victory. Naruto smiled to the girl. But unfortunately she lost, didn't she? So I had to come here and bring her the ramen she always eat whenever she come to Uzumaki Ramen. Then why were you still here? Razor asked with an impatient tone. If you had finished your job, then you should go back to where you belong to. You know what, Razor, you should just shut up and think before speaking your opinion. Naruto glared at him. Point is, it's not every day I give out free ramen like this, and Rias did promise me to eat them if things go the way she wanted. A promise is a promise, and I'm here to help her make it happen. Then his face turned cold, Naruto directing his killing intent toward Razor and gave the taller blonde his murderous glare. I'm here to make things the way Rias wants. Shauna nodded her head with a smile while Razor gulped. There's something about this young man that was worried him. Around then small whispers could be heard everywhere as the devils discussed about the matter before them. Hey, wait, Naruto-senpai. Issei suddenly called out and pulled Naruto's shoulder forcefully. I came here first and already had Mao-sama permission to fight Razor for the sake of Bucho. Plus you're just human, there's no way you will be able to beat him, so let me do this, he said. That's right, Naruto-kun. I did promise Dragon User-kun. She put a finger on her lip and tilted her head to the side cutely, making Razor blush while Issei nearly had a nosebleed. What to do, I'm also want to see Naruto fight. She winced, in very much the same way as her childhood friend, who right now was the Mao Leviathan. I'm so sorry to disturb Lucifer-sama. A young man stepped out from the crowd and asked with a respectful tone. But isn't he just a human? Letting him fight like that could be dangerous. Well, Seror-kun, thing is, Naruto-kun here has the same name as Naruto Uzumaki, the hero of our devil in the Great War who had killed Lucifer and ended his era, ending the long-time war between the three fractions. A number of gasps could be heard. Even Naruto had to raise an eyebrow at this. He is also my teacher and my godfather. But how? How come we don't know anything about this man? Surely his name should be everywhere now. Sona Citri asked with calmness, but like everyone she was also very surprised. Of course you didn't, we erased his existence. Silence. We will announce the truth later, but right now let's get back to the matter at hand. Shauna turned her head back to the three before gesturing Rias to her side, which the young woman obeyed without question. So, a young man with the same name as our hero, can you prove it to us that you're a real one? Or are you just a sick joke? She asked and then turned to the other two. A dragon user who held a great power inside of him, and the genius son of Phoenix clan with the fire of Phoenix. Hero, dragon, Phoenix, who will be the one can take the princess? Shauna said dramatically. Lucifer-sama, how about we make it a three-ways fight? A young devil raised his arm. Interesting idea. She clicked her fingers and exclaimed with excitement. The three of you will fight each other and last man standing will be the winner. How is that sound? She asked. Hee, another trash won't change anything. He is just a human faking the hero's name. What could he possibly do? Razor smirked. I will kick your butt, Razor, you too, Naruto-senpai, for all the humiliations you put me through at school. Your lustful eyes were always on my sister. Naruto smashed Issei's head. Pranking you for the rest of your life would be the least of things I would do. Sister? Since when? Shana thought before saying. Great, then Naruto-kun, I had asked Dragon User-kun this, so it would be only fair to ask you the same thing. What do you want if you won the match? Money? Peerage? The most beautiful woman, or have me turn you into a devil? I am already rich enough, thank you, and what the hell is peerage? Turn into devil. I love to be human, by the way. And the most beautiful woman? Sound good, but I would like to be single at the moment. Shana's smile dropped immediately. However, I would like you let Rias do whatever she wants to do, no forcing. Great, then let's start, shall we? A crimson magic circle appeared, and stepped out from the seal was a group of men and one creature which resembled a Chinese dragon. They were the peerage in the underworld, Shana Lucifer's peerage. Whoa! Beowulf mumbled in awe when he looked down to Gremory Residence's massive garden-turned-stadium for the three contenders. So, a Nike really came back. As expected. McGregor Matthew nodded his head. From the man that beat the hell out of us just because he felt like it. He is just like a phoenix, his regeneration is unbelievable. Surf Second muttered to himself. Shana-sama, are you okay? The dragon-like creature asked his master worriedly. I'm fine, Enki-san. Shana nodded quickly. Nei-sama, if Naruto-kun is very close to our family, then how come I don't remember anything about him? Rias, who was standing with the rest of her peerage, wondered out loud. She had tried for months to look for him from all information sources she had, however, not matter what, she couldn't find anything about him and understood why now. But she couldn't believe that the answer always in her head, all this time. We didn't not only erase his existence from the books, Rias-chan. Shana shook her head sadly, making Rias' eyes widened in shock when she realized the meaning of her sister's words. Why, you erased my memories, didn't you? How could you, Nei-sama? Rias snapped, and her sister turned her head away. That accident 10 years ago, when I lost my memories because of the stray devil that attacked us, was a lie? We had no choice, Rias-chan. Please understand this, but Naruto-kun is someone very important to our family, not just the hero of the Great War. She's right, Rias. Venelana Gremory, Rias and Shana's mother said as she followed her husband to the place they would watch the match with her two daughters. Naruto Dano took a very important role in both of your lives. You and Shana had been affected the most. We were afraid something would happen to you. You were too young back then to handle. Handle? Handle what? Rias asked, confused. We will tell you later, daughter. Lord Gremory said the match is about to start. And everyone then focused their attention toward the soon-to-be battleground. Down below, Naruto was scanning his two opponents closely. He knew absolutely nothing about their power other than Razor could use fire and super healing factor like Phoenix. Shana said Issei was some kind of dragon user, so the boy might have the power of dragon. Nonetheless, Naruto was pretty sure he could win this fight if he careful enough, but toying with them would be a good idea. The devils in the hall were standing around the watching stand, watching with keen eyes. On the other hand, at the House of Phoenix side, their relatives, their servants, and Razor's sister, Ravel, were sitting there. Issei then summoned a boosted gear on his left arm while Razor just looked around confidently. Please start. The devil male who was in charge of the battle gave a call for the start of the match. Razor, who has his fire wings out, points at Issei's gauntlet, completely ignored Naruto. All of your ability is already cracked. A sacred gear that keeps on doubling the power of the user, the boosted gear. Also, it seems like you gained a new ability that can transfer the multiplied power into an object or your allies. So what? I will beat you in 10 seconds. Hello, I'm still here, you know, Naruto called out to them. You two should worry about me more than each other. Who know you two should be able to beat me if you guys join hands. He shrugged his shoulder before reaching into his pocket. They all thought he was going to pull out a weapon, but the clicking sound of the bell immediately alerted every members of Shana's peerage, even the king and queen themselves. Oh no. Beowulf muttered. He's going to, McGregor exclaimed with horror. Use that method? Surtur II finished while shivering. The devils looked toward Naruto in confusion, wondering what could make the devils in the underworld shiver in fear like that. They all widened their eyes when Naruto pulled out a bell by its string from his pocket. A bell? You must be joking. Razor roared out in laughter. "Ne-sama, what is that bell? Is it some kind of magical bell?" Rias asked hopefully. "No, it's a normal bell." Shauna shook her head, "But you're about to witness the first test in Naruto's many hell training methods." Shauna shivered slightly when she remembered everything Naruto pushed her through to make her as she was now. The bell test. Naruto enhanced hearing helped him to hear everything around the stadium, and of course knew what Shauna was saying. This was going to be a lot of trouble afterward. This woman and her friends seemed to know everything about him, while he knew absolutely nothing about them. Anyway, he should continue. Asia was staying alone at their house on the human world. Though he had left a clone there to protect her, it wouldn't be good to leave her alone for too long. "This is a bell," Naruto said, the oblivious. "I was planning to use it only on Razor, but with Issei here it would be a lot easier. You see, I will put the bell right here." The blonde hooked the string to his belt. "If one of you can take the bell from me, I will give up this fight immediately." The crowd gasped in surprise at his challenge. "Why should I?" Razor shouted, smirking arrogantly while flaring out his infernal wings. "Why should I try to take that bell from you when I can burn both you and the bell with my flame? Simple, you two stood absolutely no chance against someone as awesome as I am in a real fight." Databao, Naruto declared while smirking confidently, easily matching Razor's smirk. "It would be easier for you guys to take me out like this. Hey, look at me, I have no weapon while you have the ultimate hand of power, and you have the eternal flame of youth." Naruto scratched his chin while looking at Issei, then Razor. "And one of you managed to take the bell from me, I will also give you a reward." The blonde then reached into his pocket once again and then pulled out the second item he had prepared for this fight, though he didn't plan to give it away like if they managed to win like that. Everyone held their breath before having their jaw drop to the ground in shock. What Naruto pulled out of his pocket was a certain orange book. Is TT that Issei whispered. Even Razor was having his own shock expression at the orange book. "This, gentlemen?" Naruto grinned and turned the book around to show them the title of the book is the special edition and also the next volume of Ika Ika Paradise, Holy Maidens, which won't be published until next year, Naruto said with a dangerous glint in his eyes, which was shining ironically. "Senpai! How?" Issei cried, his fingers twitching uncontrollably at the side of said book. "How can you get your hand on that book? Please tell me." This was too much for Naruto to handle that he couldn't help himself to crack in excitement. This brought back a lot of memories, especially when he showed the next volume of that time to Kakashi. Simple. Everyone held their breath, waiting for his answer. Ika Ika Paradise was one of the most popular books in the world, even among the supernatural world. "Because I'm the author." He dropped the bomb. Only Shauna and her peerage remained her composed as they already knew about his novels. "You!" Razor managed to speak out, but before he could say anything more, Issei had rushed forward with determination in his eyes. "Screw it, I'm going to take that bell from you, Naruto-sama." Issei cried and reached his hand, aiming for the bell. Naruto was still standing tall, holding the book in his hand with a bored expression. But before he could reach the bell, Razor Phoenix had already appeared before him and also reached out for the bell. His face shone with victory. But before he could touch the bell, a hand suddenly grabbed his wrist and forced it to the other side. Razor's hand smashed into Issei's face hard enough to send the boy to the ground. Naruto then thrust his right hand, which was still holding the orange book, to Razor's chest. The son of Phoenix then coughed a large amount of blood before he sent him flying towards the wall, which nearly made a hole through the walls around Garden of Gremory residence. Everyone stood in silence as the display of power. "Why you, how dare you hit me?" Razor walked out from the wall, coughing violently before returning back to normal. He felt his heart being ripped apart when Naruto smashed his hand to his chest, and it wasn't just pure physical strength. "You should focus on the fight," Naruto said as he opened the book and read it casually rather than throwing insults, you know. Issei then stood up as fast as he could while ignoring the pain on his cheek and punched Naruto, however with his eyes still on the book easily blocked the punch without any trouble, even when his arms was covered in metal gauntlet. Widened his eyes, Issei then punched with his other hand, but once again Naruto blocked it easily. Issei continued to attack as best as he could, throwing kick after kick and then punch and punch, but just like any other time Naruto blocked all the attack with only his left hand. And still reading the book. "Stop blocking!" Issei then yelped in frustration. "Okay." "Really?" "No." Issei's hopeful face then dropped when Naruto suddenly caught his hand and pulled his body forward. Before Issei knew it,